You can't find it underwear, that's all right, thank you.
Yeah, I'll get you another one. Yeah. Give me 1 second. Good morning, Jason. Yep.
Does it automatically do the little MAPT thing, or do you add that on?
No, I added that on.
Can you do that somewhere else? We're plugged into it, but you can take it.
Say, Cindy, do you know the theme for next year? No, I don't. Okay, because I know I looked online and I couldn't find it.
I'll get you another chair.
No.
So now that's on the bottom.
Yeah, I like that. It looks good. It'd be cool if we could somehow make a change to the person's name that's talking.
Yesterday. It's for the Smith. Okay, we have no radios. But they're putting in this new system, and when you hang the mic up, all the channel wires like that. Yeah. But you hang it up, it's like 2 days to put dead side. So you have to take the radio off the hook. Then you can. They're coming out. They're there.
I'm going to switch to that then.
John Thomas. John. Let's go. 9:35.
He wants to leave.
Oh, you're retired. You just go away.
You're telling me to go away.
This one. We got a show to do. Either on the phone.
All right. I think we're ready.
They're from Caleb. Okay.
So it's probably.
That's Sue Ron. Great Ron. See that guy? That's it. He gets it.
What do we
For MAPT membership stuff.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys want that mic off that stand or we hold it.
Well, let's see how it goes. Okay.
I'll tell them where the restrooms are, and then that's all yours. Sounds good. Good morning, guys. Just to give you a heads up, the restrooms are directly out the door here and to the right. Once again, there's snacks, coffee, juice, whatever you'd like in the back. I'm Schmedeca, Fleet Technician and Safety Director. I want to introduce Dan Krackenberg, who's the Operations Director. Sue Hoagland, Transportation Coordinator. And Jody Jagg, who's one of our bus drivers that helps us out with this. And we want to welcome you to Brooklyn Center Community Schools.
Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Can you guys hear me without the microphone? Damn! I just want to make sure we put this in a position where, as Deb and Paul and those guys come up, they can get to it too. So we'll figure it out.
Intro music.
Mood music. Soothing. Zen.
First off, before we get going with today's meeting, I want to do a personal apology to you guys. Last month in April, I was on vacation, and I was out on the West Coast. So I woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning West Coast time to have 22 emails saying that there was a snowstorm and everything was canceled. And at that point, I didn't have any time to react. So I apologize for anybody who made the trip to St. Cloud or couldn't make the trip to St. Cloud. And thank you to Scott and Jason and everybody that would put the meeting on. So sorry about that. These two both told me that morning they couldn't make it either, so it's their fault too. Want to welcome everybody to the School Bus Safety Committee and Special Ed meeting and stakeholders this time. We are in Brooklyn Center, and thank you to Mike and everybody at Brooklyn Center for hosting. I'll let Emily do some announcements, and then we'll get right into the agenda.
I don't really have any announcements, but I think we want to go around and do introductions. I think just everybody wave their hand and say their name. But I'm Emily White, South Washington County Schools.
Evan Basic, American Transportation.
Chris Burrs, North Central Bus Sales.
Barb Myers, Rockford Bus, Oklahoma School Services. Cindy McKay, Frisbee Schools.
Dean Krause, St. Francis.
Mike Kelly, Randolph Schools.
Kelly Jonas, MSBOA.
Troy Schreifels, Osceola Area Schools.
Frank Seaman, Minneapolis Public Schools.
Keith Paulson, All Hannafin Schools. All Davis State Patrol.
Jeff Carlson, DBS.
Jeff Pearson, Minnesota Bushes.
Myers, South Washington County Schools.
Brian Hanson, City Transportation. Dave Moore, City Transportation. Ray Cole, MAPT.
Eric England, Providence Academy.
Joe Jenkins, Minnesota Coaches.
Mike Schmidt, Brooklyn Center Schools.
Tony J. Bus Driver. Sue Hoagland, Transportation Coordinator, Brooklyn Center.
Did you get everybody?
Thomas Berlin, Hopkins Public Schools.
Kevin Stormer, Bloomington Schools. Who are you?
I'm John Thomas with Eastern Carver County Schools, and Jason is down there working on the computer.
Hi, Jason.
Let me just do the next part, as long as I've got the microphone, the Secretary's report. Yeah, April meeting was an interesting meeting with none of us there. But I want to thank Mike Schmedeca for taking the minutes, and those were sent out to everybody. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes from the April meeting?
Okay, terrific. Let's get into the agenda here. Department of Education, Kelly has not, we haven't heard from Kelly, so maybe she'll come a little later. So we'll just switch into Sergeant Paul Davis. I know we got an email last week saying that a couple of the members of Department of Public Safety might not be here, but maybe he's setting up.
I forget about you. Hang on, my video collapsed.
Well, do you want Deb to talk while you're?
JT Kelly is gone this week. She's out of town.
Kelly's out of town. Okay. Then we don't have to talk. How many people have to go back and drive this afternoon? It's that time of year. For sure.
Yeah,
Oh, is that down there?
yeah.
What?
We want you down there.
Do you have a podium down there?
At the
Well, you
podium.
can do this here.
He's fine, he's fine, he's fine.
I'll go down to the podium.
All right.
We obviously practiced this a lot ahead of time.
Well, this is real fancy for us.
Yeah, we're not used to such, yeah.
I thought we were going to be over in the bus.
Oh,
garage.
yeah.
Thanks, exactly. And I'd like to thank the KQRS morning show. Their biggest show up here today, so. All right, well, good morning. On behalf of Lieutenant Rue, they have a staff meeting this morning. So he and Dwayne and all the other group are out in western Minnesota and going to solve the world's problems. So we'll be in good shape by, I think, noon tomorrow they're done. So we should be up and running. Just a few things that he left notes here for me. As of late, we seem to be running into issues with wheelchair inspections, and basically what it's boiling down to is that we're finding that care and maintenance just is not happening with these at all. We can't get them to retract. We pull them out, they're completely frayed, and in one particular case, these were mounted in the bus, completely falling apart. The bottoms were out of them, everything else. And if we have drivers taking kids out every day and latching them up into these vehicles. So please, 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 take a good look at your wheelchair securement devices over the summer months here and get them maintained, follow the manufacturer's recommendations for cleaning, lubrications, things like that, so that when fall starts up here, you don't have an issue if they've sat all summer long here. Poster contest winners, the Twins game decision date of August 21st is when we're going to hold that again this year. And somebody help me out here. I heard we had a record number of poster contest entries this year. 173. 173. Amazing. 18 different school districts. Wow. Yeah. This is like the KQ show. That's that beep tone, right? I'm supposed to be done.
Go to commercial.
Just an update on the legislation. Our bill sponsor, the senator that was sponsoring our Type 3 updates for our notifications to you as employers for moving violations. That piece of legislation is there, but what we had missed along the way was suspensions, revocations, and cancellations of driver's licenses. There's nothing in the statute that requires the Type 3 driver to notify you as the employer that they've lost driving privileges. So we were working on trying to clean that up. Additionally, looking at adding a section in there with regards to Type 3 vehicles and having to have a web strap cutter or seatbelt cutter in the vehicles. 95%, I think, of the people that are operating Type 3s have them in there voluntarily already, but we wanted to make it mandatory that they be in there. And you think about it, who has the most seatbelts per seat than a Type 3? And then additionally was to address the issue with students being left unattended on school buses. And we have had just a rash of those as of late again. And, I think tragically the worst one was very recent here, was a 7-year-old special needs student, somewhat nonverbal, left on a vehicle for well over an hour. It's a park out situation. They brought the bus home, could not get a hold of the driver, ended up sending another bus and driver out there to find the child sitting in the seat, staring out the window. Tragic situation, should have never occurred. She was sitting directly behind the driver. So, unfortunately, our bill sponsor, initially we made it through all the committees just fine, but towards the end, the bill sponsor decided to pull the legislation back. She found out that she did not have the needed votes to move forward with the situations and such. So, unfortunately, we have no legislation at all. It's all been pulled. So, just thought I'd let you know that.
Paul?
Yes.
So it didn't even go to a vote, is what you're telling me?
That is correct. The senator pulled her bill out of the mix.
So the bill was killed?
Correct.
Okay. Who killed the bill?
Specifically, who killed the bill?
Yes.
How do
Sorry, was that a wrong question?
How do I answer that? I think there was some things that went on behind the scenes over at the Capitol.
Okay.
And I think that some miscommunication happened across the board. I think that people got wrong information sent to them, wrong information given to them. We certainly tried to correct that, clean that up. We worked hand in hand with MSBOA and MAPT in trying to clean up language. I think the biggest hang-up was, for whatever reason, all we kept hearing from, I think, from specifically the MSBOA membership is that they did not want this to become a crime. And that we were penalizing drivers by taking that S endorsement away for a year upon conviction. And I think that's kind of where the hang-up went. Like I said, it made it through all the committees. We've made some adjustments and tweaked some language to help clear up that, what is leaving a child, proximity to the bus, things like that. So it's unfortunate, because we end up losing all the legislation, not just one piece.
Right, right. So you're telling me that the student safety came second over hiring drivers and retaining drivers?
I can't answer that for you.
Okay. That's what it sounds like.
On the surface, it does to me. But again, I can't answer that. That has to be addressed by other people.
Thank you.
Yep. Whose phone's on? Sue, kill your phone, please.
I was trying to kill the bells.
Exactly. Let's see here. We did have an incident. Just remember, any crashes or whatever that happened with the school bus, when in doubt, call law enforcement. There was a incident here just the other day where they were doing a drop in a parking lot, a dance school. Let all the girls out. They proceeded to go inside the building, and as the driver just started to move forward, all of a sudden the kid's yelling out of the corner of her eye, catches it. A little kindergartner took off running because she saw mom across the parking lot in her car. Driver hits the brakes, the child runs right into the corner of the bumper and bangs her head and stops for a second and then continues running and runs over to mom crying. The driver did a great job. Stopped the bus right away, obviously, and got over, checked with mom, and she had a little bump and everything was fine, and mom said don't worry about it, so on and so forth. And as you alluded to, who's driving today, that's exactly what happened. There just wasn't anybody left in the office. As a result, about an hour later, it ends up getting back.
I'm sorry, I tried to stop.
Yeah.
That's our principal.
Students, the 7th annual Centaur Carnival will be held on Friday, May 30th. There will be
Carnival! Come back Friday.
A reminder to staff, sign-up sheets for carnival duties are located in the front office near Ms. Lindquist's office. Summer school forms need to be returned to the guidance office as soon as possible. BCA staff, teachers, and staff. The Brooklyn Youth Council is seeking youth in grades 9 through 12 who live or go to school in Brooklyn Harbor Business Center in order to fill the council spot for the 2014-2015 school year. We are looking for individuals who are hardworking, dedicated, and want to make a difference in their community. No previous leadership experience is required, and this group is a great way to gain those skills as well as the opportunity to invest in your community. If you know any great candidates, please see me, Dr. Jarva, in the main office. Friday, May 23rd is the last day to check out books from the library. Make sure you return your open books and take care of library finds before the end of the year. Particularly important.
Make sure everybody's
Those of
awake.
you interested in registering,
I'm not awake
we
till
have registration forms in the front office.
No, they always do it
And
later.
look up the paperwork
I don't know why.
in order to secure your spot. The deadline for registration is June 2nd.
Normally not this
Baseball
long.
players, uniforms must be returned today.
Probably sitting in her office going,
Outside after. And unsold tickets are to be returned to the activities office no later than Tuesday, May 27th. 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students, you are needed to work at this year's athletic banquet.
You're gonna
Students
forget what
interested
you're
in working
for.
with the draft, stop
It'll be time to go home.
Senior letter winners.
Oh my goodness.
Check out your letter winner's history. So displayed on the senior side.
The KP Morning Show.
Have a valid issue. Please see Mr. Bell prior to the next. That's all for today.
Thank you. All right, picking up where we left off. After morning announcements, hey, don't forget about Friday now. All right. So with the minor crashes, they didn't call law enforcement right away at all. About an hour later, they get back to the bus garage. The other staff gets in, and they end up calling the police department the next day and filing a police report. So the driver knew that the management was out of the office, that they were all driving. So that's why he didn't, get on the phone and call, because he knew nobody was going to be there. So like I said, I would just politely suggest that you remind the drivers anytime pedestrian bumps, bangs, whatever, you have a minor crash, whatever, law enforcement always gets called, and that way you've got some record. They did go out after the fact, and again, like I said, it's just to ensure that proper documentation is made, pictures are taken at the scene if need be, and things. So in the long run, it'll work out, but it just got a little bit convoluted. So just if you could do that. Oh man, this has been a long, brutal winter, and I just see it in the industry in general. Drivers, transportation directors, everybody, we're just burnt out. It doesn't seem to quit. Now we're on the parent kick. Everybody seems to be calling and complaining, and drivers are doing this and drivers are doing that. And I've dealt with a number of those the last few weeks here. We had a crash last week that was captured on video in bus, and it truly boiled down to just driver complacency 100%. The driver run this route a million times, how it goes, and we're nearing the end of the year, and next thing you see with videos, we're driving down the road, we're going a little bit over the speed limit, we're passing cars, everything else, and all of a sudden we come up to our exit, and we got to make it over there really quick, so we got to speed up even more to get by the other group of cars, and we're sitting with our hands up at the top of the steering wheel with it just covered like this, and the driver is literally asleep at the wheel. I don't know how else to put it, and doesn't realize that up at the next exit, there's a crash that the troopers are out attending to. Traffic backs up. And it's interesting because you can see in the video, all the cars around them realize, uh-oh, this is going to go bad. And all the cars just go whoosh and get away from the bus. And the bus driver hits the brakes, goes to the right, doesn't slam them on. He's pushing hard enough, but then all of a sudden he lets off the brake like, okay, this is going to work. I'll just drive off onto the shoulder, and then realizes, oh, wait a second, somebody else not paying attention just drove onto the shoulder in front of me. So now he jumps back on the brakes a second time and puts the bus up over the guardrail and takes out about 20 feet of guardrail underneath the bus. 12 students on board and a bus aide. Luckily, nobody hurt at all. And in fact, when we listened to the video, it was rather humorous because one of the young men in the back says, "Ooh, that was fun." So worked out well, but we're having the same issues, like just at student stops, whatever, where they're on autopilot and just dropping kids and going. So again, if you just keep on track for a couple more days, and we'll get a much needed summer break. For those of you that are not aware, Peter Scalise, our North Metro Inspector for eons, will be retiring in July. So he's going to be going, and then that will leave us short one inspector for a little while. We'll get the position posted and filled, I hope, fairly soon. But there's some other internal things going on right now that have to be dealt with some position descriptions and things first. So bear with us over the summer months. Those of you in the Northern Metro, we may be a little bit slower, herky-jerky, or you may see faces you're not familiar with normally coming to help do inspections and such. So, while we're talking about inspections, Lieutenant and I have both been going out here and there doing some help with some annuals, and we're hearing people say that they're fearful or worried or concerned about their annual inspections and whether the buses are ready and things like that. I think, folks, what it boils down to is that that bus needs to be ready for inspection 365 days a year, not just the day of. So it's so important that those drivers are doing those pre-trip inspections. And a lot of the violations that we find are violations that could be very easily detected if the driver is doing a proper pre-trip. And again, I know that they're getting burnt out or whatever, but keep in mind, this didn't deteriorate overnight. This has happened over a period of months where things just start slipping and slipping and slipping. So I encourage you, as we talk to you in the outreach, to please partner and network with your shops to identify who your drivers are that are not doing pre-trips and not maintaining vehicles, because they'll be able to tell you in a heartbeat who drives them hard, who does what. I think that's a good line of defense. And then don't forget, do some random sampling of your buses from time to time. Hop on them. Let's take a look at them. Do a pre-trip. See where it's at. I was in a bus the other day, no violations, and we got lights out and all kinds of seats. I mean, it was just silly stuff that could have easily been prevented. So just a reminder there.
With that, Paul, I think that is a good idea, is to go out and get into a habit of going out to 2 buses a day, bring your form, do a pre-trip. If the pre-trip is good, put it in your driver's file, said you have a good bus, it's documented that the driver did a good job. And if the driver didn't do a good job, you have it documented. And it's not hard to get it in your habit just to grab 2 buses a day and go out and do it.
Right. And Frank, I think that's a great idea. Again, we always seem to harp on the bad ones. But the good news is the vast majority of the drivers are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you do want to reward them for that. You do. Pat on the back, hey, we went out and did a random sampling of your bus today, and we really didn't find any defects, and good job for you, or that we found them, but we also noted that you wrote them in the pre-trip. Things like that. So, yeah, you're just doing yourself a disservice if you aren't doing some random sampling of your vehicles. And then it lets the employees know that you care enough, too, about the fleet. Let's see here. Mr. Mike, you want to wander down for half a second with the trophies while we talk about it? Just a reminder, shameless plug one last time. The school bus rodeo is coming up next Saturday, the 31st, out of the Arden Hills testing facility. Mike and I and Josh and Tosh Schiffler spent 5 hours out there Saturday with marking paint and everything else, and put the course together, and hopefully after a couple of resprays and things that we got everything set up, and all the measurements are there. So again, take a look at the website. It's MN Rodeo, and it's ROADEO.com. Road-E-O.
MN School Bus.
Can we go home now, please? Yeah, MNSchoolBusRodeo.com. We'll get it right yet.
Just to give you some idea.
Mike, can you bring them over to the camera?
These are trophies that we have this year. I'm sorry, I told him to set up there and I forgot. Paul has first place individual trophy and third place individual. I'm holding second place individual, and this is the Rookie of the Year individual trophy. And there's also trophies for team in both small bus, conventional, and forward control. Everybody will get a participant certificate, and everybody will also get a sticker that they can affix to their car or wherever they want that shows they were a participant of the 2014 school bus rodeo. Those are actually supposed to be done sometime this afternoon. I tried to push them, but they're kind of squeaking us a really good deal, so I couldn't get it this morning as much as I wanted to, but they'll be out there. We need volunteers. We need help. Don't be shy, and we welcome more teams. We welcome
individuals too. Hopefully we don't have a team.
Yeah.
Our first applicant this year was from Duluth Schools, public school. That was our first driver.
You can take 100 drivers?
Yes.
Okay. And where are we at so far?
I don't.
We were at 35, I think Tasha said. So we had 47 last year. And so just trying to get it picked back up again and get interest back in it. I see Sherry sitting in the audience here. And again, I want to thank her for keeping it alive and keeping it going. You know, we're just trying to build on what they had for a program to begin with. So it's closer to the nationals, and like I said, there's been a lot of behind-the-scenes work on everybody's part, and I just really encourage drivers to come give it a try. You know, and we'll even take. I mean, if your schedule is such you're just not sure till the last second, we'll take day of registration. Show up, we'll get you in. You may not get your participant certificate right that day, but we'll get that back in the mail to you. And again, you know, like I said, I just want to, you know, Greg Zeman's in here, and Sherry Case, and whoever. Just looking around, who else has been involved in the rodeo. You know, just thank you, Ray's hiding in the back there, just for your efforts to do this. And now being on the other side of the fence, realizing how much work it really is. It takes a ton of things. Again, Deb from DVS will be so kind as to let us use their facilities, and it works out really well. Closed course, and away you go. So we'll hope to see you on the 31st, and we'll see who the team is and who's first. Any questions? Anything come in?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I have 2 questions? One has to do with students left on buses. I think we all want that to stop. And I'm wondering if those that you've experienced or seen this year, is there some technology on the bus that helps the driver make sure to check, the child check, going back to the bus, something like that? Because I think every driver wants to make sure that all the kiddos are off the bus. So I'm just thinking, if there's not legislation, are there tools that can help prevent that? That's one. And then it seems like there's been a lot of bus fires recently, and I don't know what's going on there, but that's another.
Going back to the child left on the bus part of it, Keith, is that yeah, there's all kinds of technologies out there. You can get electronic. We've proved that doesn't do a thing. We have the one video where the bus is equipped with child check. The driver parks the bus, exits the seat, child checkmate system is screaming away, the lights are on, driver walks down the full length of the bus, piece of paper in her hand, goes back, deactivates the system, turns around, walks right back, and on the video of the bus, in about seat number 4, on that right side of the bus, you can see the hoodie of the young man sitting in the bus. She totally walks by, comes back up again. So the electronics, or hanging a placard or whatever, it's that whole complacency thing. It's never happened to me again. You know, again, a seasoned driver that's been around for a long time did this, and they go through the motions and they go through the procedure, but they don't actually see anything. And I think that's really where we need to focus, slow down, and maybe start looking at working a side of the bus at a time. Not just walking down, but walking, looking down the left side as you go back to push the button, hang the placard, or just plain clear the bus. And then come back and look at all the seats on the right side coming back. All of these kids that have been left on buses this year, you know, you always hear this, oh, well, we're never going to see them because they're crawled up underneath the seat. Every one of these children left on a bus was sitting in a bus seat. Not one person was curled up in a ball down by the wheel well. Not a one. So, bus fires, yeah, we certainly have had a rash of them. The first student one over in Brooklyn Park, that one was isolated back to that step-well heater fan area. I put a quick call in North St. Paul this morning, and haven't heard back yet. I was just real curious as to if the driver knew what happened with theirs. That one went up obviously pretty quick, and almost, I don't know, that one almost looked more of an exterior because the hood was up. You know, usually we get the interior ones, they burn their way from the inside to the out, and that one just seemed to be flaming right from the hood, right from the get-go. So it almost seemed like something went wrong in the compartment. And to make it be something as simple as, you know, that turbo gets so hot in there. an antifreeze leak spraying on that thing. That antifreeze will burn. So,
Everything's burned on that.
yeah, yeah, that one's. But you know what was interesting? We're working on the bus evac things for Train the Trainer. So we went over to First Student and looked at that burnt up bus. I mean, that bus is fried, burnt right up. But those seats are still intact. The roof is melted, all the plastic, everything else, but those seats are intact. And even the driver's seat isn't real badly. I mean, it's burnt, but it is a testament to the flame proof of that vehicle. So it just buys time to get out. That's all we're looking for, is just a few critical seconds to evac out of that bus. So.
In case anybody hadn't seen it, the fire that is being referenced was yesterday afternoon, North St. Paul, Maplewood, Oakdale. Driver had finished his route, was heading, I don't know if he was heading to this next school or back to the garage, but he was getting off at 94 over by the 3M campus, and the bus started on fire. And it is on the news websites if you want to look at it, but total engulfed. In fact, even took the brakes off and the bus started rolling at the fire department and the state troopers that were trying to respond to it. So that, in case you haven't seen it yet, it is actually a impactful video to see how that bus took off and went. So, but luckily there were no kids on the bus. So,
yeah, it was faced right into the wind, so it was getting flooding oxygen.
The Maple Grove bus, in fact, I think we're still scheduled to have a driver here, but he did have some bus.
Correct. Yep. So.
I just wanted to make the comment about the child checkmate thing, and there's an elephant in the room when we discuss this thing because there's different viewpoints. But as a collective group, why can't we get past that? I don't understand. As a fleet manager now, as a district administrator, these situations continue to compound themselves, and we're struggling as a group to come together with some kind of resolution that's acceptable for everyone. And I don't see it to be that challenging from my perspective, managing 400 plus drivers to now having to look at the parents on that side of it to say what's going on. I think from a driver perspective, they get distracted. They have a lot going on. There's a lot of good drivers, 99% of them are good and do the right thing, and there's a few that just are careless. Those are poor hiring decisions, or they were sound hiring decisions that changed because of different situations in life. And my concern, though, is that we're looking at it from a perspective and it's going to get only worse, that we're short drivers. We have a 30-year driver that's done a good job for us as a family-owned business or a corporate-owned business, and they have that one bad day. And I think that's a concern that some are talking about. I've heard both sides of this story. My thought is you got to be reasonable and you got to be responsible. And I believe, but I think the hesitation is from some is it's going to be black and white, there's no gray. We're sorry, this is the way the law's written, tickets issued, things happen, and that's what the concern from that end is. But on the other end of it, I've also seen actions taken where every reasonable, prudent thing was done, and in those extreme circumstances where that one child is hidden away in the back, and you see a driver doing a good child checkmate, knowing the laws, looking for things, and don't find it, I got to wonder, is the state really going to come after them at that same level? And I think the concern is how the law will be written to interpret those type of situations.
Right. And again, with that legislation, there's a misconception out there, okay? And that misconception is this, folks. I don't get to make, a lot of times, that ultimate decision, all right? I'm going to get video if that's available. I'm going to interview the driver. I'm going to talk to an aide that was on there, whatever, We're going to talk to the district. There's a lot of investigation that's going to go on here. That gets submitted to a city or county attorney's office. So it's going to be ultimately their responsibility to look at the total case file and determine whether or not they want to pursue charges. There's that conception out there that the state patrol is just going to whack everybody and blah, blah. Folks, I can't do that. All right? It's an unwitnessed misdemeanor crime, was how it was originally set up. There's only 2 unwitnessed misdemeanor crimes that I can take direct action on. That's domestic abuse and stop arm violations that I didn't witness with my own eyes. So you're exactly right, Troy. There's going to be a group of people looking at that and making a decision on what they're going to do. And then, again, the judge, if it goes to trial, is going to make a decision. It isn't ours to make. Ours is nothing more than a report gathering of information to move it forward. And like you said, each one is different. You don't walk through life with a cookie cutter. So, I guess it is a little bit frustrating from a standpoint too, from not only the district but a contractor perspective. You have that driver who does this, right? And most school districts have a policy. Well, Mr. Bisick, I guess I'll ask you. If that happens in the Mounds View School District, you leave a child on a bus, what does the school district tell you?
They're immediately disqualified from the district.
Okay, they're disqualified from the district. I know a lot of districts that do that. Osseo, what about that? Do you do that?
It's not a policy, but something that is a direct bus.
Okay, Mr. Paulson?
In the situation.
I think it will depend on the situation, the investigation. Do some disciplinary action.
Right, okay. So discipline to outright, the district says you can't drive. And now the problem becomes is, and Frank, you talked about this, what a safety meeting is.
A student left on the bus is right at the school. If you leave the school premises, that's, we call it a sleeper, or the last bus stop. If it goes 3 blocks down, unless you had some, unsafe place to stop, you should check at that time. That's a sleeper. First time, because we have a bargaining unit, it's a 3-day suspension. Second time, you can work there for 29 years, you're terminated.
I would just say this, for the folks that haven't gone through the litigation and the lawsuit from the families that are thinking that this is too severe, they should really consider or talk to folks that have gone through that. The alternatives are tough.
Yeah, exactly. And but the point is this that I wanted to talk about is that, like Kevin's saying here, I'm forced to disqualify that driver from that district. Well, if you've got another district that you can put the driver into, yeah, I suppose you can keep them. But in most cases, you end up terminating it. And then that just kicks the can down the road. And now all of a sudden, they show up at North Branch applying for a position. Well, we're all short drivers, I get that, and the driver's going to say, I won't do this again.
If he says it at all.
Yeah, if they say that at all. And I don't know, it's just whole kicking the can down the road thing and opening things up that just is bothersome. And how do you explain that to that parent?
Well, it also opens you up to not just student being left because the bus is hot, but why are you keeping my child on the bus by yourself? You're opening up a lot of other accusations.
Didn't think about that part of it, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, that's almost always what it is Mara, what was the driver doing with that kid the whole time?
That's interesting.
I don't know that law would fix that interpretation to make people think differently.
I think, too, as we're talking about training, and I worked under Troy when he was the fleet manager at First Student, and one of the things Troy always brought up in the safety meetings was it's not about the process or the procedure of going back to the back of the bus. It's about the purpose of why we go to the back of the bus. And we're looking for students. And that's something that I've hammered over and over and over again to my drivers. It's not about the process or the procedure of going back and pushing that stupid button and hanging up a yellow sign that says this bus is empty. It's the purpose of why we're doing it. And it's always about the kids. And for me, that's the message I continue to drive home to my drivers. It's about the kids. It's not about pushing a stupid button.
The hard part, though, is
you're a winner, Troy.
Whoa.
Time for the 11th bus.
Sometimes it's just hard because you have to put some meat behind the issue. And I think that's what's going on here. And if you don't have the meat, you have the same institutionalized issues that keep arising. You have organizations that take it 150 degrees to the right, and you have others that say, you know what, that's part of it, but hey, we've never had an issue, let's not worry about it. Or we're too busy to even worry about it.
Yeah. Right?
I appreciate all of the remarks that you're making. They're very valid. They need to be captured, and we need to initiate a proactive response to this problem. We have the law, you have policy. If you don't have policy and procedure in your school district to back you up when the driver doesn't perform properly, that needs to be there. 99% of our drivers are doing a fabulous job. This is a visual thing. A week ago, I had eye surgery, cataract, retinal surgery. Just today, I can see a black line. And just today, I drove up the freeway, and a guy waved. He rolled his window down and went like that to me because I was going 50 miles an hour. I got up to 60 on 94. But care is essential here. A couple months ago, I referenced an idea. OH. If I leave a child on a bus, OO. Here's the first O. That's get out of your seat. Go to the back of the bus. With his eye condition, I've been required to look down for 1 hour, 4 times a day. When you come back through that bus, that's what you want to do. You want to be carefully looking down. The second O, I believe, and Paul, tell me if I'm wrong, that's turn the bus off. How long does it take to go to the back of the bus and do that walk back? How long? A minute? Okay. We use a little bit of gas in that minute, don't we? Or fuel, diesel fuel. But isn't that worth making sure that that check is done? I'm not an artist, I'm not a graphic artist, I can't draw, but I've got the idea. We capture this concept with a poster, and we go out and beat the bushes to get some support for development and printing that would go into every driver room all across Minnesota. And then a little brochure to go with it that captures the concepts that each of you laid out. And you know what I think could happen? What's happened in Minnesota before? Our training concepts and ideas have gone nationwide. We can do that. We're leaders. We're at the top of the United States up here, aren't we? It's cold. We could share this idea all across the country.
Great. The MSBOA is working on a poster next Tuesday with TV Bus to
Wonderful.
address this very issue.
I'm happy to hear that.
Excellent.
That's great.
Yep. One last thing that we're going to pop up here, and then I'm going to get out of the way. We have taken up way too much of the meeting. Century College approached us again this year to do some PSAs. They did one for us last year. So they did 2 on stop arm violations. And I just want to show those for you. They're going to be up on our State Patrol website, and we're going to reach out through our media outlets and see if here or there we can't get them, maybe just to drop a spot in.
Well, you're going to be mad at me, John. I have to get going. This should be under new business, but can I just bring something up? You know, we're all talking about driver shortage. I mean, for 25, 30 years, it's been driver shortage. We keep having this problem. And back in 1982, they passed a law that school bus drivers cannot collect unemployment. And I guess my question is to the contractors, how big of a thing is that? I mean, I have open school bus routes for the last 2 months. I can't even give them to a contractor because they cannot attract drivers. Do we need to start looking at things a little bit differently? I mean, because this is just continuing every year. We're short. And the job, I've been driving this year, the job's a lot harder now, at least I'm going to say in the inner city. It's a lot harder now than it was 15 years ago. And we keep expecting our drivers to do more and more and more, but they work, what, 176 days a year? And then we expect them to be able to provide for themselves. I just want to throw it out there. Is, you know, unemployment insurance something that would be attractive to keep drivers around and be able to survive when school's not in session? I just want to throw it out there. I apologize. I was going to bring it up in new business, but I do have to leave early today. Thanks.
I agree. I had this discussion with the group at the issues meeting a couple weeks ago too, and I think that not only is the current driver shortage, you know, starting to affect us significantly, but I think the future looks even more bleak. Not only is the economy is improving, there are other jobs out there that are full-time. The federal standards and the state standards to become a school bus driver are getting stricter and stricter and stricter. Our potential pool is getting smaller. As you said, the demand of the school bus driver, it's not drop the kids off at 8 o'clock in the morning and take them home at 2 o'clock anymore. We have to deal with anti-bullying. We have to deal with drugs, guns, all this other stuff. And I mean, these drivers could go through training on a daily basis just to go through everything we have to do, EpiPens and all that fun stuff. I think we as an industry and we as a group need to talk about things besides what is their pay and stuff like that, and look at other ways that we can retain our drivers, and possibly getting the unemployment back might be one of them. Possibly, I mentioned at the other meeting, we need to try to get the word to these special ed departments and these other groups that sending a kid to an out-of-district treatment program at 8 o'clock in the morning adds a bus and adds a driver. And depending on the size of your school, you're adding 5 buses and 5 drivers to take one kid 20 miles away to a program. And those programs need to be told that they're going to start at 9:30 if they're going to get school kids, so that we can use the same buses and the same drivers that are doing other things. Is that kind of stuff that we need, in my opinion, is we need to start pushing for, is to take the drivers pool that we have and use them better and train them better. So I agree with you, and I think that we need to, as a group, in all different meetings, start to have discussions about how we're going to have good drivers.
That takes up a lot of our drivers.
Yep.
So as the contractors, let's say that's, it's an extra cost, obviously, for your company. Can't you reflect that in a bid when you bid for the school district, and it's an equal playing field for all the contractors?
It would be if it became a state law, yeah.
I have a couple of questions though about that, is that, so you've got folks on unemployment in the summer, and you've got summer school routes. So, I'm gonna get unemployment, or I'm gonna get paid, or I'm gonna drive a summer school route.
If you, I got a feeling that if you offer them work, they have to take the work.
They have to take the work.
Yeah, it would be able to.
Then they award it based on seniority. So that's how it'll go, lowest seniority, and it's work available, and if they refuse it, then they don't get unemployment.
All right, okay.
I know that the unions are petitioning for them to be adjusted as well. The issue is it also involves, that whole statute involves school district employees as well.
It's not just.
So they need to find a way to creatively do that.
John, I know we talked at the issues committee as well, and I've been thinking about it since then as well. You're talking about the demand for drivers has increased, and especially when you've got the care and treatment, and we've got about 850 homeless kids in our school district this year, which is 50 more than we had last year, and we're not quite done yet. Which is a 560. Which is a good size, middle school, or it's certainly a large elementary school. But I think of this as that the same pool of people we're looking for to drive a school bus that may transport 60 students, they're also looking at driving a cab, driving 1 or 2 students. And so the ratio of driver to student is really, I should say, the student to driver is really dropping. So we need more and more drivers because we're doing this long haul, few kids places, and I don't know what all we can do about that as far as laws go and what we're required to do. I think, although running an efficient operation as much as you can with good bell times, filling up the buses you have, working with athletics to double up trips, things like that, those are all things that we're trying to desperately work on and figure out. But I think there's a bigger issue. There's a much bigger issue, and it's unemployment. I don't know if that helps. We've had boomers that are retiring now, so we may have fewer people that want to drive, or we might have more people that have retired and want to drive. But it's certainly a struggle.
Just a comment that came in from Dan Bacon up in Moorhead. He's just said that several of the people that he's interviewed really want to be involved in school transportation, but are afraid of the level of responsibility of driving students. He says this is according to the interviews of the driver candidates, And that is coming from media reports of accidents and drivers behaving badly. Dan is saying he's not real sure how to combat that. We want to have a conversation related to that.
Yeah, I think the overall statement is that it's bigger than just what their pay is and how many hours they're getting. That we as an industry need to look at this and say, if we're going to keep doing this, there's other things that need to be done. And it's talking to the outside programs, it's talking to the legislatures, talking to your athletic departments and saying, we just can't do status quo anymore. We're not going to be able to do status quo anymore. I mean, I think the other thing that we talked about, and I've noticed this a lot, but the younger generation or the younger groups don't take things like their driver's license as seriously. People are getting DWIs and think it's sort of fun these days, and they don't understand that DWIs cancel you out from so many different job opportunities and stuff, or smoking pot and getting caught smoking pot or having pot in your car and stuff like that. It's like your career opportunities have minimized now because of the stupid ticket that you got last weekend, and you now have another beer in your hand. And there's tons of different ways that we have to look at this thing, and there's not solutions today, but I think we as an industry have to start talking about the fact that within a couple of years, we're not going to have anywhere near the drivers that we have right now without changing something. And right now, we're
keep it on the agenda so we can discuss it. I think in the past, a lot of times different companies had different philosophies on attracting the drivers, so people didn't want to share. But it hasn't gone away 30 years. We've been short for 30 years. It's affecting performance terribly. You get a different driver in the seat every day. They're looking at the route copy, holding it in their hand. It's unsafe. You're late. You have kids getting to school late. It's out of control. It really is.
And to that comment, it's probably a component of this whole discussion about, so people are worried to take the job, and I think that's maybe some of the other side of this issue with sleeping child being left on the bus. That's another thing I think others are concerned about. But how do you market the whole idea from that to driver recruiting to make it fair and equitable across the system?
We can keep it out there.
It should be permanently in my mind, because this is, to me, it's a pinnacle point. We've been short for years, but I've been in this since 2001, and this is 2001 pre. That's how bad it's getting.
I've driven more this year than I have, than I can remember.
I don't know that you can really address the issues in a meeting like this. I mean, I really think we should probably put together some kind of round table or something at one of our conferences.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a fair point.
You get a group together and then move forward.
Start to create a focus group or something at least.
And then present it as type of agenda.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we see it out on the road. It used to be like you talked about. We saw buses early morning, and then they went and parked till afternoon. You had some middays out there, but now, oh my goodness, there isn't a time of day, I swear, that we don't see some type of school vehicle moving. They're everywhere, and I echo your sentiments. I mean, route copies in this hand and microphone in this hand. They're trying to manage way too many things, and just to try to comply with, like you said, some of the federal laws and different things that these kids gotta get where they're going. So, yeah, it's not pretty.
I do think that it places more emphasis on things like train the trainer in our training programs to answer the web question. As far as how do we retain them, they're concerned about all these things, is giving them the confidence that as leaders in the department, we're going to give them the tools that they need in order to be successful in the job, to be able to comply with the state and federal mandates as well as the department mandates. So I think that's why it's more imperative on us to make sure that our training programs are top-notch, and our evaluations, going out and inspecting the buses, a couple of buses a day, to make sure that our whole fleet has the same expectations, and we're holding them to that, and we're giving them tools that they need.
I think that's key. I think that the driver has to get more and more information. MSBOA's, the video with the parent, jumping on the bus, so that unauthorized, that intruder into the vehicle type deal. those are training tools that help that driver become comfortable in that compartment and know that, hey, if this does happen to me, these are some things that I can try and do. It's not a guarantee, but it's a tool. At least gives them something. I mean, that's all law enforcement does. We just train and train and train and train, and some of it's mandated. It gets very old and boring, but it is what it is. But you know what? The one day when it does hit the fan, you will suck all that training back out of your head, just like that, and drop into that mode. So I think that's key, is calming that driver down to give them the adequate tools to do the job. So,
I'm going to keep this moving.
yep, we need to move. Let's just watch the videos real quick and.
Once again, these are PSAs.
Yes. Very compelling, very nicely done. These are all college-age kids who we met with back last fall, gave them ideas and information, and this is what they took off and ran with in previous days. And I tell you what, I think very nicely done. Very nicely done. And kind of modern. It's kind of cool. So we did a little taped cable interview with Mike Eddy, who was the director of their program here last week. And like I said, I think they're nice. So I'm hoping that, like I said, we'll push them out at the driver meetings. We're going to show those to the drivers. Just kind of reiterate to them that, you know, this is what you got to be prepared for.
So you're going to push these out to the networks?
What's that?
That needs to be on TV.
Oh yeah, we're going to try to push it on TV. We're going to try to reach out to our media outlets and see if they'll pick up on it.
Certainly. Does Chief Queen send them a letter of gratitude for what they've done and, you know, that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
We get them on the website.
Oh yeah, yeah. They pretty much gave us carte blanche to do with them what we wish, which I thought was really nice. They're not copyrighted anything at all. This is a video production training chance for their kids, their students. And I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be sharing with both organizations. If you want them on your web, your Facebooks, whatever, you know, we're going to push them out on our Facebooks on the patrol and things like that, and just get this out there. Just, you know.
On your website, Paul?
They will be on the DPS website shortly. So I don't know when Lieutenant Roski's going to get those on there or not, but they're, we dropped copies off to him yesterday.
You can send the links. We put them on our district website.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, good idea. Okay.
We put it right on our front page as a We have a little weekly news notification. We'll put it right out.
Yeah, it might be a nice push come fall.
Yeah, that's what we're.
You know, I think, you know, probably it's not so much for right now, but if we do that push starting in August and get that, because you're right, yeah, the parents, think about your own district website, so what a great idea.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna be in there a lot, so. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. Gavin, get 2 minutes.
You're gonna wish the lieutenant was back here, right? Yeah.
Morning all. You're all going to be a blur because in order to read, I got to take my glasses off. A lot of great discussion this morning. Holy smokes. So with this PSA, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm thinking, I know for sure the downtown exam station, we can put that on the TV screens that they have in there for the public to see. And we can always partner with some of our DL agents like Hennepin County and Yoga County and those types that have the type of videos that they could run PSAs like that. So great work there. Also with the discussion with the post-trip and child on the bus, I had thoughts going on. So it's great that I come to these meetings because I can get some ideas to maybe help with some of these situations. So I'm going to go back and review the language that we have in the CDL manual about post-trips and maybe leaving the child on the bus. And maybe even think about drafting, having my test maintenance committee draft test questions to even put on the school bus knowledge test. Maybe that's another way to help if the legislation didn't go anywhere. So it's kind of great to be here and get my mind thinking of some of these things. I want to publicly thank everybody for passing on the information about the certified medical examiners that go into effect today. FMCSA sent out an email this morning anticipating that there might be a high volume of calls because it goes into effect today. And they were recommending that if you get these calls that they be transferred to the main medical programs number, which is 202-366-4001. That's 202-366-4001 if anybody needs that number. As we talked about with the outreach, I thought those were really great events too, and I just want to reiterate, if you weren't there or didn't hear, the recommendation to remind your drivers to check that MedCert card when they leave the examination to make sure it's completed, all the boxes are filled in and it looks accurate. When the drivers come into the exam stations or to the DL agents and they're turning in their medical cards and we collect the self-cert, we can monitor that a lot easier at the point of contact when you're in person. But when things are being faxed in, there's nothing to correct it when we receive it. And it's hard to give feedback back other than send the driver a letter saying you're missing something or something wasn't correct. So it's really important that you encourage your drivers to look at the documents when they receive them. We've updated the self-cert form to include language to say that the medical exam has to be from a certified medical examiner. So you might want to take a look and get the most latest form. It doesn't make much difference. The form's basically the same. It's just reiterating that the exam needs to be from a certified medical examiner. We've been working on programming too that would prevent the MedCert from being entered if the exam was after, well, starting today, and there's no registry number on the MedCert, so staff will not be able to enter it because it needs to have the registry number starting today that any exams are done. Just a reminder that the self-cert form is needed with every MedCert. Like I said, if it's faxed in, sometimes we have to then write the driver for that form.
Deb, is there any way to put on that self-cert form? I mean, is that federal language or whatever? I just find that drivers get really confused when they read that certification. Even though we tell them pick number one, they get to the DMV and they're like, I'm a Minnesota driver. You know, they just it's like you could put rare or something.
Unfortunately, that language is standard that every state is using. It's a federal language standard, and you know, when it comes to school bus drivers, well, they have to have a medical, and unless they got a waiver, always go with number one.
That's it. Like if you could like denote that it's pretty rare to pick you know, what is it, 4 or 2 or?
They can't pick 4 or 2.
Yeah.
We shouldn't even be accepting that.
Right.
It should be caught. Of course,
I know.
people
I
make
understand.
mistakes, but yeah. Yeah, another thing you could do is you could always just fill out the form for them. They just gotta sign it. Yeah, but you would think, yeah. And actually, we probably have more trouble with other trucking industries than we do the school bus industry.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just check the box and I leave the rest of the form blank, and that's my master copy. And they have to fill out the rest, but they just got the right box checked.
You kind of do the answer for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one of the examiners, the people that argued with me about what category this person should check. Well, he doesn't leave Minnesota, so check this one. Well, no, we want to have the opportunity that if we need to. Well, no, you need to check this one. You know,
If you have things like that, please let me know, because I can't fix something that I don't know is broken. And if I have somebody out there that they're not even supposed to be giving guidance on it. So if they're trying to steer somebody, that's a problem.
well, I finally said, this came directly from Deb Carlson.
Mhm.
Well, I'll take it now, okay?
Yeah, when you see that, Bart, let me know who and where, because, like I said, I can't fix it if I don't know it ain't broken, so. A reminder, with drivers that need the waivers, start planning on getting those documents filled in ahead of time. We've had a few where we have to expedite them if we get the forms in, so just to have them work on it ahead of time. We have been seeing a few fraudulent med certs also, where we've had drivers that, for whatever reason, the medical examiner's not going to give them the past exam, won't fill out a card for them, so they take the last one they have on file in their hand, and they alter the dates and turn it into us. And when we investigate that, then we'll take action against the driver, so don't alter the card. We're working on fixing our MVRs, as far as we're required to have more medical cert information in them. So we're working on talking with our priority board in driver and vehicle services and DPS, and going more towards, in the future, a web-based type of motor vehicle record that will include everything that's on the med cert. And we have all that information. We're just working on how we can marry that into the MVR that you have to run for most drivers. So we're working on that. We're digging out from the legislation here, is getting an impact of what impacts us and how we're going to handle it. The bill that we have the CLP in has passed, and I'm not sure if the governor signed it yet, but also with that was an amendment tied to it that would require us to provide a road test within 14 days of the request. So tied into that was asking for 12 more positions. Fortunately, I had been tracking the number of examiner hours that were spent at counters in some of our major stations. That's how we came to the conclusion that we need at least 12 inside people so that the examiners can be working outside giving tests. So I'm glad I had those numbers, because it could help formulate how many positions we would need. We're still, I think we just trained 7 more examiners, and we have 6 more that we're hiring. Big impact on northern Minnesota, 3 in the Duluth, Virginia region, and 1 in Bemidji. So we're working on getting that done. So a lot of work is going on. I think that's all I have, unless there's any other questions. I know time. It's been an eventful day. I think it's been a great meeting personally. So good to see all the input.
Any questions for Deb?
Thanks all.
Thanks for being here.
All right. Train the trainer. I see Derek is not here.
I got a 6:05 a.m. email from Greg Lytle. He says, to date, we have 55 registrations for Train the Trainer and 23 for the technicians.
Okay, terrific.
And there is a meeting, I believe, in Grand Rapids on the 10th of June, which is going to involve planning, updating for this year's program, and also planning for 2015.
Yep, yep. If anybody needs train the trainer information, we have it up here and we can put it out on the front table. Please encourage your staff and you to sign up for it. Let's see here. Oh, shoot, I was going to bring this with me. In one of the most recent transportation industry magazines, I can't remember if it was Student Transportation News or School Bus Fleet, the guest speaker, the keynote speaker for the Train the Trainer, had an article. And I'll send that out on email. Mike, he had a great article about staffing and stuff like that. So I thought that was a good tie-in, but then I forgot to bring it with me, so I'm sorry about that. School bus rodeo, we've already talked about, Mike?
Yep, we're good.
All right. Poster contest, Cindy?
If anybody needs trainer brochures, we have some.
Where are you going?
You can get through there.
Hey, Cindy, stand up, I can't see you. Keep that, he's proud of you. Cindy and I have worked together for a long time.
Like I said, this year's poster contest was a great success, and I thank all of you for all the entries we had. We had 173 entries. We had 18 school districts, which is off the boards also. I'm just going to announce them because I think it's really important that we had a lot of statewide. So Annandale Public Schools, Anoka Hennepin, Bloomington Public Schools, Brainerd Public Schools, Edgerton Public Schools, Fridley Public Schools, Hutchinson Public Schools, Intermediate District 287, Mahagana Public Schools, Moorhead Public Schools, Minneapolis Public Schools, Osseo Public Schools, Randolph Public Schools, Rockford Public Schools, South Washington, St. Francis, St. Paul, and Winona. So that's 18 school districts, and a lot of them we hadn't heard from ever. So it was really a wonder, although I got posters coming off my ears. But it's really great. We're going to send 4 people to nationals. I'll be getting the pictures out on the website and their awards. Once again, thank you. I do not know next year's contest logo yet, but as soon as I do, I will let you know. And we'll look forward to that August 21st baseball. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Great job. Fantastic.
Cindy, is there
I'll send it again, or send me an email, I'll reply to it.
Okay.
I got it, send it. Okay.
Okay.
And
And just a comment, I mean, this is the first year I sent it to my daughter's third grade class, and the teachers felt like that was a lot of rules. So I don't know if you guys want to look at that, just to make it, teachers, they don't want to mess it too much, spend a lot of class time on it. So I don't know, maybe you want to look at that to make it easier for them. I don't know.
And Jenny, person that does a lot of publications, redid it. We have to go by the federal.
Okay.
National thing. And she refocused it and sent that new brochure out. It is a lot of rules.
It is a lot of rules.
Teachers
are
don't
disappointed.
I know, I think it's just intimidating.
Yeah, and I don't know if we could dumb it down anymore, but we can certainly look at that.
Right.
But we can certainly look at it, maybe we can get a.
I don't know, I was just a suggestion.
A checkout list for people, really simple, I don't know. But if there's anybody that's interested in helping with this on the committee, I'd really like to get actually a person from each region to help, and then have one, to pull all together. Because the issue comes when I'm bringing all these posters back and then try to get publication out to people. That's where, if I had one main contact in each region, it would be easier and more streamlined. But if anybody wants to help, it's really not that much work. It just would be a lot of help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, as we wrap up here, just want to make a note, the last meeting in September, or in June 18th at South Washington County, we will have a little bit of a retirement celebration. Hi.
Big retirement.
Big retirement. And actually, we're going to just make it a general retirement, because I also did find out that Leanne Livingston is retiring, and maybe there's some others that we just don't know about. So we'll have a cake for anybody who comes down, and we'll say goodbye to her and fill her office with balloons and toilet paper, her car, and all that fun stuff. So
I don't think so.
we'll
I gotta find the key for my office.
we'll also have a discussion about how to fill her position for the final year of her term. So whether you want it to just be appointed or if we want to do a small election or whatever. But June 18th is the last meeting. MAPT membership group is getting together after this meeting, and Mike has a room across the hall ready for you, so if you're part of the MAPT membership meeting. Also, I know we're going to try to fill the meeting locations for next year, and I know Amy's here for special ed, but let's try to hit this a little bit to help fill with a bigger group here. Kayla sent me a list of schools that it voiced that they would love to host one. But I also, before I do anything, since Mike is here, Mike Kelly, would you like to host a meeting that also the stakeholders? I mean, you've been very good to come to the stakeholders portions, and we'd like to, come to you sometime if you have a place down there to host a meeting. Are you interested in hosting a meeting?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
I mean, I don't expect y'all to drive south to Randolph, but
No,
we have no problem doing that.
Now that we have the cameras and stuff, okay. So you want to do September? The stakeholders are September, December, February, and May. What do you think might be a good one for you?
How about December?
December? All right, let's put December as Randolph.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to wait till.
No,
No, you're right. No, he's probably right though.
No, Minnesota's snow, we all have to deal with it, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Kayla has requested October in Brainerd, so I've got her penned in at that. Bloomington has requested November, and Osseo, Kayla suggested Osseo for April because they have a room big enough to do the poster contest. So April for Osseo, is that okay, Troy?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay. Anoka?
Sure.
Would you like to do one?
Absolutely.
Do you have an interest or a specific? Do you want to start off in September? Oh. January. Do you want to start off in September?
Sure.
Okay. Anoka for September.
January, February, March, May, or June?
January in Rockford. We also have North Branch.
I'll take one.
Okay, let's start with North Branch.
Can we make the meeting here like about 1 o'clock? Because all the announcements are done.
Are you buying what? Jason, what works for you? Any month?
You tell us.
February?
Well, if we're going a little bit out of the city for December and January, let's bring it back in for, let's do Brooklyn.
You want to do February?
Brooklyn in February, so we're back in the cities. And then let's do North Branch in March. The other ones on that expressed interest, 287 and MTI. You guys want to host one?
Yes, sir.
May or June?
May is fine.
May for MTI, which is down in Golden Valley. And then June, let's see, 287, Amy? She must have walked out. Well, let's put down 287 for June, for now. Okay. We are done. I apologize that we went a little long, but I think we had fantastic discussions. Amy is going to run the special ed meeting because Kayla's on vacation. We have the announcements of the special ed award winners and all that stuff. They have a guest speaker Skyping in.
Yep.
And a guest, I believe the driver from Maple Grove that had to do the bus evacuation due to the fire will be here as well. So a fantastic meeting for special ed. MAPT, like I said, MAPT membership is across the hall. We'll see you June 18th in South Washington County. Thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I turned my mute on.
Everyone, I'm
But it's fine.
engaged with District 287. Kayla's on vacation, so I'm
Again?
filling in for her. So Kevin has some announcements, and then we'll go through and introduce ourselves, and then we have a guest speaker, Al from First Student, and then we have a presentation from Brainerd as well that we're going to Skype in. So here's Kevin.
Okay, I'm just gonna let you know who the winners were for the special ed drivers and assistants. All the entries this year were electronically submitted, which is kind of neat. One wasn't, came in late, and can blame Greg Liedel. Oh, I should say that now. Greg, he found it after, but we got it in and got it done. So this year for drivers, Brad Ward from Prior Lake School District Bus Association took first place. Second place was Ken Ulrich from Thief River Falls. And third place was Stephen Polzel. Is that how you say it? Stephen Polzel. That's crazy. Mike, where's Mike? Get those bells. Anyways, from South Washington County took third place. I'm going to probably shoot this name up. Robert Schwitzerberg from Hope Bus in Waconia was honorable mention, along with Kathy Cusack from Pine River Baptist was honorable mention. For the bus assistants, Val Schneider from Walnut Grove took first place. Julie Paulson, S-E-N. That's it, Troy. Took second place, and Shelley Twist from Brainerd took third place. And everybody, the plaques are going out. Emily's got hers for 7, and the State Patrol came out. I went out, Caleb's been out, and Greg's been out to present the others. So this year the deadline was early to comply with some more national deadlines for stuff, just to kind of keep all these deadlines the same. We might look at pushing that out next year so we can get some more nominations, because there weren't all that many this year. But the ones that came in were really, really good. So thank you to everybody for that. All right, thank you.
Can everyone introduce themselves and tell me if you have any hot topics? We start with Frank there.
I'm Frank from Osseo. Hot topics, we need drivers.
We just talked about that. Troy Schreifels from Osseo Area Schools as well, and I don't have any hot topics today. We brought Hotness Whip here to talk about his hot topics, so we're good. We're excited to hear this story, Al. Again. Like, really again. Yesterday was supported as well, because there's another fire yesterday.
I guess there was one yesterday.
Yeah.
Chris Burrs, our central bus.
Heather Jensen, Voice.
Kelly Weber, MTI, hot topic, bus driver to student ratio for safe emergency evacuation.
Jack DeRose, MTI, Blue Valley. Brett Johnson from Forest Lake Area Schools.
Emily White, South Washington County Schools.
Rick Hogan. Bill Martin, Eden Prairie Schools. Yes, Hopkins Schools. Johnny Robinson, Minnetonka Schools.
Are you going to introduce yourself back there?
Trevor Davis, are you staying?
No, I'm heading out.
Okay.
Okay. Paul Davis.
I'm just gonna, yeah, Paul Davis, if anybody doesn't know. These are trainer brochures. I'll leave some here if anybody needs them or wants to take them back for the trainer July 7th through the 11th at the Grand Hinckley Conference Center. Practicing. You want to you?
Okay, welcome Al Lewis, and he's going to speak about, I think all of you have heard about March 6th of this year. He was in the Brooklyn Park area going to Elm Creek Elementary in Maple Grove and had a bus fire. And he's going to tell his story and then time for a few questions. So go ahead.
Okay, I just got to start from the beginning. I was driving a bus on May 6th, and I was on about my 5th pickup. And when the bus started smelling like brake pads or a little bit of smoke, we pulled the bus over, and right away flames started coming out of the heat duct. And if I could say anything, I was blessed with a nurse, because I told her we're going out the back door. She started getting them ready. I used the fire extinguisher for a few minutes. And we did get everybody off the bus safely, 2 wheelchairs, 2 students, and the nurse. And then the bus was completely in flames. And I think if I could tell you anything that really helped us, it would be calm. We were calm. We didn't say a lot to the kids. I don't even think they realized the bus was on fire. But we did get all the kids off the bus, and everything went well for us, and we're here today. I don't know what started the fire.
Had you not had a nurse on the bus, would you have been able to get everybody off by yourself?
I think so. We're trained quite a bit. 279, District 279 and First, we train quite a bit for evacuation.
Did you use belt cutters to get the wheelchairs loose?
No, I didn't. The fire was to the front of the bus, and unfortunately that was where the belt cutter was. But since then, they have put them in the rear of the bus and in the front of the bus, so that you have access to a couple instead of just one.
So your calmness helped you get through that whole issue of getting those retractors released and the chairs loosened up.
The chairs were very small. They weren't electric chairs, so they were very light, and we did get through that quite quickly. And I think the whole thing was calm. That was the trick to the whole thing. We were very calm. But the kids weren't excited. They weren't scared. They didn't know what was going on. But yeah, we pulled them. We did them manually.
When you let the chairs out, you went out, which the rear emergency door or the side?
Back door.
Side door.
The fire was in the front. This was a mid-sized bus, so in the stairwell there were flames and smoke. The lift is right behind the stairwell on those buses, so you had no option but the back door.
So you went out the back door, then where was the nurse, you know, it was a 2-person lift to get the chairs off the bus?
No, I lifted the chairs.
You did?
Yeah. They're very small. These are elementary. If they would have been electric or bigger chairs, they would have had to leave the chairs.
You said you guys go through extensive evacuation training. How do you do that? What do you do? Scenario training?
A couple times a year we go at the schools, 279s there, and we actually evacuate the students there at the beginning of the year and in the middle of the year or towards the end.
You actually evacuate special ed students?
Yep. I think that comes into play. When that happened, I think all that came into play because I have been through it for 6 years, every year. And then, of course, video classroom training. Anybody else?
Two wheelchairs, correct? Is it 2 wheelchairs?
2 wheelchairs. We took the mobile kids off first because we didn't want them going backwards in front, and then the chairs came off after.
You had 2 ambulatory students as well, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so how did you deal with not only the 2 students in the wheelchair, but then you had 2 students that
The 2
potentially
kids
could
in the
have
wheelchair
gone
were
on?
to the back of the bus.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 other kids sat down and we lowered them out of the bus.
Okay.
And then we got the chairs out.
And then once you got out, outside, you had 4 students to keep track of.
We had me and the nurse, and we pulled them way away from the bus. And then I phoned and told them the bus was on fire.
Okay. Okay.
It was very quick.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I bet, less than 60 seconds, maybe a minute and a half. That fast. And she was,
Did they determine the cause of the fire?
you know, if they did, they didn't tell me. If they determined it, I don't know what it is. But they still have the bus quarantined off at First Student. And I guess they've had people come look at it, but they don't share that information with me.
Okay.
Is that it?
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Quite an amazing story. Thank you for coming to share.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
You have a certificate. Oh, wow. And it says Life-Saving Award for his actions on March 6th from the Minnesota Special Transportation Committee. Thank you.
You know that bus manufacturers, like Bluebird, there's a heroism award that's made every year at MAPT, and this year it's in Kansas City, and I'm wondering if we could suggest that the committee present this gentleman as a candidate for that award.
Oh, I think that's,
I mean, these types of heroic behaviors have been recognized in the past where school bus drivers have gone above and beyond, you know, in a moment of extreme danger for the children. It's obvious that he would satisfy these requirements. What is your name, sir?
Al Lewis.
Al Lewis, and you're with 279?
I'm with First Student.
First Student working in
He drives for us here at 270.
Okay. If I may, I would suggest that I take the initial, I'll send an email to Kayla.
Okay.
Suggesting this be done.
That's a great idea. Yeah, we'll do that. You can do that.
I will take care of it. Thank you.
Good job. Okay.
And that was May 6th.
Are we all set?
Thomas is working on getting the connection,
Okay.
so if you want to start.
So let's, Gilly had a hot topic. So do you want to, you repeat that? Did anyone answer that while we're waiting to connect with Brainerd?
Well, my concern is that we have drivers that drive special ed buses that have, for instance, we have one that now has 11 preschool children in star seats, and there is no para. And my concern is if something happened, like what happened with Al, how is she going to get all 11 students off the bus? And even if she gets them all off, once she gets the first one off, who's going to make sure that little one doesn't run off somewhere?
And what's the ages of these kids?
These are like 3, 4, 5 in preschool, and then we have some that are like, you know, kindergartner. But I'm concerned as I've tried calling the districts to ask them if they could, please request a para or if they would okay for us to put, and they're concerned about the money. And my question was, what's more important, the cost or the lives of these 11 children?
And there's 11 of them that are all free.
On this particular road,
And
yes.
they're all in star seats.
Yes.
Okay. And so the district is just.
No, they're not doing nothing because of they're concerned about the cost, and they have to discuss it. When I call them, I get a runaround, and.
So does the driver strap each child in then?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone have ideas of what you do in your district at all?
Any bus that has preschoolers on, we have an aide. We do too. You can't run that age child without an aide. They got to give you an aide.
Who's demanding it though? Who's saying that it's the law or it has to be done? We've addressed this or tried to address it for the last 2 years. And it all comes down to the dollar. And that there's no law requiring it.
I don't think there's any law requiring it, but I can tell you from our standpoint, it's a fail-safe convenience, if you will, to have an aide with those pre-K.
But who pays for it?
School district.
School district.
Who authorizes it?
Transportation.
I would suggest that you go back to the notion that whatever that cost is to have that aid on there, it's going to be a whole lot less than the loss of those children's lives. And if you approach it from that perspective, that standpoint, maybe that's the way you get your foot in the door. Or maybe you bring somebody in from the outside that could say that to a board for their consideration. they have to stop and look at that, the potential for loss of life, and balance that against the cost of having that para on the bus.
And we've talked to transportation, when she originally only had 9 students on there and said that that was too many and wanted to know if they could break it down, but they don't want to pay for another bus, and then instead they added more to hers. And it's like an ongoing battle with them. A lot of our buses are overcrowded, and when we talk to the transportation department, at whichever district, you know, it's like, well, you know, this is all we need or whatever. In the morning, they use 16 buses at one district. They use 16 buses to bring the children in. Sometimes there's only 4 or 5 on a big bus. It's not a special ed bus. But in the afternoon, there's, you know, 66 or more when they don't fit. And I'm getting frustrated that we can't get the cooperation and just, you know, wondering, does anybody have any suggestions? It's special ed and it's regular ed, either way. We can't get them to comply.
Well, regular ed, talk to Paul Davis. You know, he's gone through that before where, you know, you need to have your cheek space. And, you know, if they pulled the bus over that, you know, students were hanging out in the aisles, that's considered overloaded. But the special ed, I think you just need to, I mean, our drivers in our district have an association. It's not a union, but it's an association. But they've been real vocal, and we have aides on all of our special ed buses. Unless we're taking one student for late, maybe a care and treatment or something like that, then we don't. But any of our 3 and 4-year-olds, all of those buses have aides on them.
And see, that's the way I feel. I feel that they should have them, and none of ours, unless the student actually requires it. So I know that we have at least 4 routes, because I've driven each one of them myself, and know that they don't have aides.
Now, are these special ed or regular ed? The 11 and 3 to 5-year-olds.
I think the regular, I think they have some issues, like maybe ADHD or something. I mean, nothing like physically, but you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
They don't listen real well a lot. They, you know, thank God they're star seats, sure they'd be running around.
Right.
But it brings up a good point. If you've got star seats or wheelchair securements, you've got passengers that are strapped in. It takes extra work and attention to get them back out of that bus. And when you've got 30 or 60 seconds with a fire, watch that video yesterday, you don't have a lot of time.
Correct.
Is this something that has to be not just policy, but maybe legally addressed? If you've got X number of passenger percentage, a number, whatever the standard is, that are going to require that extra because they can't get up and just leave on their own.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a real
It has to go legal. It's got to be a requirement because of the tight budgets that everybody has.
It sounds that way because it's all theoretical until something happens. But evacuating 2 wheelchairs from a bus, a fantastic job with that. But what if it had been 6? What if he'd been by himself? You know, at some point you're not going to get the job done.
Right. And even with belt cutters, there's no way that she was going to be able to cut 11 seats and get them all off the bus.
And monitor.
And monitor, make sure that they're not running away or whatever. It depends on what's required. If the school district requires an aide on the bus with a certain student, you know, then we'll put them on. But unless they require it, we don't put one on. No.
So they come from your base though,
Yeah.
So they're not district.
No.
So couldn't you guys just put us, you know?
We could,
One would think so.
but then again, you know, there's that whole money thing. The company doesn't see that they should be responsible for paying for it, and if the district's not gonna pay, I don't know. I'm between a rock and a hard place.
Well, doesn't the district require it? I mean, isn't the district that decides that outside of the state? I know certainly in Minnetonka, that's the way it is. I mean, we're required if they're in booster seats, if they're in star seats, whatever.
At this point, evidently not.
Because I've talked to both transportation for that district and called the school and talked to the counselors there, tried to figure it out. It's a money issue.
But I think in this industry, from what I've seen in my 18 years, is the prevalence of, well, there's always been discussion of seatbelts. Now it's 3-point seatbelts, and now it's all these start seats. I mean, that's growing exponentially.
Yes.
From people are familiar with what they are to we're selling, hundreds at a time, and that changes things. And the legal part of it does not keep up with that unless someone stands up and puts something forward. So maybe that's something that has to look at in one of the associations. I'm not sure who pushed that, but there's a point at which you aren't going to get those seatbelts.
Yeah, we got to push it somewhere,
Yeah.
especially now with
Several
fires.
All right. Is he working?
He's working on trying to figure out on their end the connection. So, any other topics of discussion, Amy?
Okay, what we're waiting for, those of you that came in, we're going to have a phone conference with Brainerd's, people from special ed from Brainerd, and we're just trying to get hooked up with them. So hopefully we'll get that done in the next couple minutes. Any other things about going on or hot topics in your district we can talk about until we get all set up? Nothing?
Do a plug for Train the Trainer.
Okay. Did everyone get Train the Trainer? No. Oh, okay.
Amy, just a reminder for those that just arrived, Paul Davis was remarking on the importance of making sure that we remind the drivers to get their the attachments for the seat, for the wheelchairs in proper, order. If they're loose, if they're clean, lubricated, go to the specifications books on those wheelchair devices. Good order.
Yes, where he's going, right?
What?
This is interesting.
Okay. Okay, so at Train the Trainer, if you want to look at that, and I forget the day, it's on the special ed track. Jennifer Christensen from Anderson Bus, herself, myself, Jennifer, and Paul Davis are going to do evacuation training, and then we're going to have Al come back and tell a story again. So, it's one of those things, unfortunately, when something like that happens, you think you're prepared, like we talked about, but it's something that sometimes you just really think about a little bit more about things. So maybe even if you know evacuation training and everything, Paul, as you know, has so much information, and I've been meeting with him a few times, and I've just learned a lot of new things from meeting with him. So there's going to be some good information at that. So if yourself or anybody wants that training, that's going to be there. So yes.
Actually, I'll backtrack a little bit, just in regards to the evacuation process and training. I just recently had an incident at my kids' school where the students reported to the driver the smell of smoke from the back of the bus. And the bus driver basically told them he doesn't have a light on his dash telling him that there's any issue, so don't worry about it. Okay, so the bus traveled a little bit further, finally, obviously, the bus driver smells the smoke. And he goes back outside and realizes that the rear brakes are smoking.
Okay.
So, and he proceeds just to call dispatch to have, a vehicle come pick up the kids, but does not evacuate the bus, and does not know if there's actually a brake fire in process or not.
He just assumed that.
Yep.
Right.
And basically I was just bringing that up because I don't know, I know who this bus company is and stuff like that, but they have drivers, and maybe I'm mistaken here, but I didn't know if we don't run big yellows. Do big yellows have a light that comes on if you have a brake fire? Rear brake fire? I don't think it does, right? Okay, so the training of this driver obviously was not good enough kind of thing. So I don't know, when it comes to evacuating a vehicle,
Right.
You know, where is that line of when you evacuate vehicle, as you guys just talked about, a bus fire in 2 minutes consume the bus.
Right.
And for a driver to not take the student's word, to check it out, stuff like that,
That's a great comment, and I will talk to Paul about that. That's something where, you can't just think black and white. You got to think outside the box, and when you have somebody telling you something, you need to investigate. So I think that's the thing. He just kind of got too, kind of tunnel vision with his training, and didn't think about that. So yeah, that's a good comment. And Paul will talk about that. You've probably heard him say before, tires burn and burn fast, and it's bad. So yeah, that could definitely turn into a fire. Are we?
Okay, we're gonna have to change gears just slightly. We were hoping to do a Google Hangout, which is basically kind of like a Skype call that we did with Peggy Burns. If any of you were here with us earlier this school year, we did a Skype call with Peggy Burns. We were trying to do a Google Hangout with Brainerd, and we had tested it earlier in the year with them. It seemed it was working at the time, and now there's something different either here or on their end or something that's blocking them. So what we're going to do, we're going to still be able to present with them, but we're going to have to probably speaker call them on a cell phone. So the sound quality is not going to be exactly what we were hoping for, but we'll still be able to do the presentation with them. So Thomas is working right now on making sure he has the proper connections with them. So we will have that going in just a minute or two. In the meantime, if there's nothing else, let's just take like a 2-minute break.
Well, I do have one
Go
more thing to talk about, and then we
Yep.
can take a break. I actually had, I'm with 287, and I don't know if you realize it, those of you that bring kids to 287, we have member districts, so lots of districts that bring students in and out. And I get calls once in a while from the staff at the different schools, just telling me about maybe concerns they have. And a couple weeks ago, and I won't tell you what bus company it was, but a couple weeks ago I had a call, and the staff was just real concerned because they had one of their students in a wheelchair that has cerebral palsy, and she kind of jerks quite a bit. And the bus driver was, put her on the lift and did not put the strap across, did put the brakes on, but did not put the strap across, and was just putting the lift up and wasn't putting his hand on the wheelchair to make sure it was secure. And the staff had said, she does wiggle around quite a bit. You really should put your hand on there, and that's, procedures. And I have written up procedures for my staff. So like the paras, when they go out for midday transportation, they know what their responsibilities are to help with the student, get them on and off the bus, and then the bus driver realizes, what their responsibility is. And I made those procedures up about 1.5 years ago, and that has really helped. And so that staff, all the staff really take that seriously. And so they were saying, our procedures are you're supposed to have your hand on the wheelchair. And the bus driver said, I haven't heard that before. Well, then when I called the bus company, of course, that's the training that they've gone through. So just think about it. Sometimes people don't hear you right, and you need to repeat things quite a bit over and over. And that's something you wouldn't think so, but, it happens. So anything else? Yes.
Can you email me your procedures, please?
Sure, I can do that.
And then the other thing that concerns me, there, you said you didn't bring the strap across.
Right.
On all of our buses, you can't move the lift with the strap
Well, I know.
across.
Well, I'm sorry, he brought it across. I'm sorry, I misspoke. But it's like, she said it wasn't on properly. It like was behind her, or so. I don't know how he did it. Just, yeah.
Our buses don't even have that strap.
Okay.
They don't have it.
Right.
Which is strange to me.
Right.
Well, they're different standards. So some of the lifts have a strap with interlock.
Yeah.
If you can't go on the lift without the strap. But some have a strap with no interlock. And maybe some don't have it all. I guess I'm not sure. But what the difference is from this on the equipment side is that end barrier that keeps the chair from falling out the end of the, if that's a certain height in certain years, then it may or may not require that strap with an interlock. So there's a combination of things, safety items they want on there. Depending on the vintage of the lift and how it's equipped, you can see that variation. So one policy may not fit everything in that case.
Okay.
But a belt's not a bad idea. You've got to be a good idea to use it properly.
Right, and, you know, and that's why in case any of those things malfunction, you have your hand on the wheelchair, then that's going to be a safety for you too, so. Yes.
You know, it's more than just your hand on the wheelchair. These drivers do it every day, in and out, in and out, in and out. You need to be paying attention to the lift when you put the lift up. This is the dangerous part where the student could fall. So it's not just the hand, it's attentiveness.
Right. Well, that's what part of my procedures too that I've had was, or I added. So the staff, you know, puts the student in the wheelchair on the lift, puts the brakes on, hands it over to the driver, then they have the student in the wheelchair. Then the staff goes up at the top of the lift, and they're there to grab them right away. And so that will help prevent maybe so they don't roll off, you know. So, yeah, so I'm trying to think about all of that. But yeah, you're right. Everyone needs to pay attention. Sometimes you might not have two people, but if you have two people, then use them. Yes.
You know, I have a quick question. I drive in Minneapolis, and I drop students off up there. And there seems to be a distinct difference between aides and the aides on the Minneapolis bus routes. They seem to have training, whereas the aides like I'm from Minnetonka, they have no training per se. They have, you know, classroom training, but there's actually a lot of training that goes on with the Minneapolis aides, or are they paras or whatever?
Well, let me
Here, let me answer
that. The people that we use as bus aides in Minneapolis are the special education assistants that work in the school in that program.
Okay.
So
what's their training?
They're, first of all, trained as special education assistants beyond being educational assistants. So they receive premium pay as well. I sponsor a once-a-year workshop for 4 hours where I vary the speakers and materials and disabilities that we cover. So I'm rotating those all the time. The aides that ride on the Minneapolis buses, for the most part, are really high-quality people. They're being paid the same rate of pay as they get when they're in the classroom with the students. They know the students well. They are familiar with the case managers. They know the students' abilities and disabilities. They're an integral part of the school.
Okay, so they actually go with the students.
Yeah, they go in, they help to unload the bus, and they're into the school all day long. You know, they're part of the school classroom system. They may or may not have those same kids in their classrooms, but they're still part of that program.
So your 4-hour education?
I do a 4 hours.
That's just only available to
Well, I've had other groups come in and visit on it. I have seating space for additional people. And it's usually the Thursday or Friday, a week before school starts. So I think that puts it on Thursday the 14th, August 14th this year. Good.
Yeah, I'm game for that.
Okay, just take a couple-minute break, and hopefully we'll be all set up in just a couple minutes.
There's pizza out here if anybody wants.
What?
Oh.
Cheese, sausage, pepperoni.
Great. Perfect timing.
Hello. Alrighty.
Where are you guys?
We're over here. We slide over?
Yep.
Do you want us over here?
Okay, can you hear us? Nod, yes, smile. Alright, we're gonna turn this around.
You
Where's
guys
Thomas?
Hello. Can you guys see us on your screen?
No, they probably can't.
Or hear us?
Marion.
Let's do this. Let's go here.
Alright, we got there.
Now they can see us.
Hi. How are you
Probably be
doing?
able to see us now, right?
Good.
I hope so.
Took us a while on our end.
Okay, so now we've got you.
We're here.
So now can you,
We'll have to test now is sound.
Can you send
with
it to me?
Yep.
Make
So
sure my audio's on.
your audio's on. Okay.
I know he said something about
I
that.
see sound coming from them. What I don't know.
I don't hear it over there.
Give me a second. I gotta turn you up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're just getting her PowerPoint up. They didn't want to have to do it that way, so if we can, now they're seeing all my emails.
I sent it.
Okay, 5 minutes later. Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Are
Thomas.
you going to be able to hear us without?
Well, we'll try it out, see where we're at. Okay.
Yeah, we can you hear me right now?
Because I don't know that we've,
I don't know if we got it.
Can you hear me through the computer?
whoops.
Hello? No?
Turn your sound on, Thomas.
It is on.
Can you guys hear us?
Can you hear me right now? No?
Turn your sound on.
It is on. I turned it on. I'm gonna call him back.
Because, let me turn, hang on.
Aren't we supposed to be able to see them? We lost them.
Hang on. There's Thomas.
Yep, they lost us.
I've got my mic on. Can you hear us?
Hello. Hey, Thomas.
I turned.
Yeah, we couldn't hear anything. Are you seeing the PowerPoint?
Not right now, I'm not.
Okay.
Right now,
I think we have to get in our hangout here again. Here one more time. There we go. I just saw it down there. Use the other one.
what they need to do if they're gonna share the screen, otherwise I can do it.
There we go. There you go. Now we're on.
They had a camera here, but a little bit.
Okay. Then they won't.
Right.
Okay.
We got her.
We have
Right now, you guys are on camera.
Okay.
Pepperoni's fine.
That's the PowerPoint.
But it's not on ours, it's on theirs. They're doing it on their side.
Okay.
So this way at least you can see when they change from slide to slide.
Okay.
And we have to figure out the...
Listen to me.
You have me do it? That's fine. So let me hear it back.
Here.
No, I don't think so. I don't know why.
Your audio's on?
Yep. Yes. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Well,
And
maybe
then
I have to
everything
speak
up.
to my
I don't
question.
know why. Oh, wait. I know why.
If they don't have their speakers up, they won't hear us.
Where's volume?
Hey, we can hear you. Now?
Hang on.
Got you.
Can you hear us now?
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna hang up the phone then.
Hang up.
Like, it was volume on the TV. God.
Okay, we're good.
They can hear us fine.
Okay, so then now you got to move that again because we're getting the
It's
So
every
now-
4 minutes it comes on.
Okay.
I mean 5.
So now I should be sharing my screen. You see mine? And
I
you
see
got
mine.
them.
You'll want yours up here though.
I will, yep.
Yeah. So everyone else can see. We're gonna control yours.
Let's see. I must have just gone into sleep mode.
So I'm going to try to switch between when you guys are talking and the presentation, and then us when we're asking questions.
Okay, there it comes. Oh, dude.
Thanks.
There's more, so just let me know.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So, you should be now sharing with the Google Hangout, Thomas.
Yep.
You're going to have to control it as far as what we see and what we hear, but we can hear them through you, right?
Can you guys?
Can you hear us?
I want to make sure we can hear you while I have the presentation up.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Everything's good.
And they
Give
can
us
hear
just a minute, and then we'll pull everybody back together.
And then make sure we show them
Down there.
who's here.
Awesome.
Who's here, and then we'll have them take over. And Amy will bring it back together.
Amy, we're ready to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Sorry about that.
It's all right. We got there. Good lunch going on there.
I love technology. Well, that was the movie, but I forget the brother's name. I'm going to have to go home and watch that.
Okay, everybody have a seat, we're ready.
You guys can say.
Now are all, so both of these ladies on the phone then?
Yeah, I'm going to switch it over to their video.
Okay.
Here, I'll put them up on my screen.
Yeah, you just put up the other.
Okay, everyone, we have everything set up, so if you please pay attention to the screen here.
There they are.
Hey there. Hello.
Okay.
Good technology there.
Hi, well, you can go ahead, and so you're going to present, and then we can ask questions after?
Sure. Yeah. Do
you introduce yourselves?
Sure. You guys can see our PowerPoint because we can't.
Yeah. Well, we see you right now.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, now we see. Okay, now we see your PowerPoint. So this is Nancy Anderson, Assistant Director of Special Ed for Brainerd Schools. Is that right?
Yep. Yep. And Julie Domino, Early Childhood Supervisor.
Okay. I'm Amy Teedens from Intermediate District 287, and I'm filling in for Kayla. And then we have quite a few people here from bus companies and from school districts all around the area. So we are glad that you're here, and you can go ahead.
Yeah, we'll start out, again, Nancy Anderson, Assistant Director of Special Ed with the Paul Bunyan Education Cooperative, and my main role is I do provide services for the Brainerd School District. And I'll let Julie introduce herself.
I do. I'm Julie Domino, and I help with early childhood special ed coordination, probably for Brainerd School District and out of the Paul Bunyan Education Cooperative.
Okay. So a little bit, we just thought we'd start off talking a little bit about, who we are. The Paul Bunyan Ed Cooperative is an special ed cooperative that kind of oversees and provides different services to 6 different school districts, and then we also have 3 charter schools. So we serve Brainerd, Pillager, Pequot Lakes, Pine River, Aiken, Crosby, Ironton, Pillager Area Charter School, Discovery Woods Charter School, and the Cross Lake Community Charter School. So those are kind of the districts that we provide services for, and we kind of the co-op puts together different, like we hire the school psychologists, OTs, PTs, things like that, and then they are out working in all those different districts and buildings in those districts. We're in Brainerd, or Julie and I both work mainly with Brainerd, so we're going to kind of just a little bit of background on the Brainerd Public Schools in regards to transportation. There are 6,800 students, approximately K-12, in the Brainerd Public System. Over 1,200 students receive special ed services in the Brainerd District, which is about 17.3%. So we're a little higher than what the state average is. It's 14.1%. There's over 250 students in early childhood special ed, and that's an area that is growing daily. And I think that's a trend across the state, and Julie will talk a little bit about that in a few more slides. We do transport about 312 students on special transportation every day in the district. So Kayla had asked us to kind of just do what she kind of called a SPED 101 presentation and kind of just some background on special education. And so really, what is special education? So we kind of just, special ed is instruction that is specially designed to meet the unique needs of children that result from having a disability so they may learn the information and skills that other children are learning. So it really is about specially designed instruction to help kids who have unique needs and don't learn the traditional ways that other students do. In special education, there are actually 13 different disability categories in which a child could qualify to receive special ed services. And I just have a list of them there. Kids can qualify if they're on autism spectrum disorder, blind or visually impaired, deaf-blind, deaf hard of hearing, developmental adaptive physical education, or what we call as DAPE, developmental cognitive disability, developmental delay, emotional and behavioral disorder, other health disabilities, physically impaired, severely multiply impaired, specific learning disability, speech or language impairment, and traumatic brain injury. So those are the different categories in which kids can qualify to receive services. And how they qualify, that the criteria is set by, there's federal guidelines, and then also the state sets criteria. Really, we have to follow the state of Minnesota criteria, which has to follow some federal guidelines as well in regards to how kids qualify. So how do we get them to qualify? There's a referral process. So when students come into the system, into a school system, referrals can be done by teachers, doctors, parents can come in and ask to have a referral on their child. Then the team that gets together, they gather data to determine if a child is eligible. There could be some testing involved in doing that. Then there's the evaluation of the student. Then you have an IEP meeting to determine if they qualify, and then if they do, what services does that child need, and then determine the services. And then special transportation is a service that's listed on a child's IEP. So that is, we just want to kind of really make sure we note that when a student receives special transportation, that is something that needs to be listed in the IEP as to why that child needs that service. Then we have to implement the service and then follow through with reporting. And there are reporting requirements for case managers as far as what progress kids are doing and how well the services are working for that particular child. I'm going to let Julie kind of take over a little bit here and talk about the difference between, in special ed we have two things we call Part B and Part C. So I'll let Julie kind of explain those.
Sure, I can explain a little bit. There's a difference on Part C and Part B. Part C is at birth to 3 service provision for children that are from age birth to 3 that would be eligible for special education services. As far as transportation, there probably isn't that much impact probably in that area. A lot of services are provided within homes, daycares, within staff that go into those settings. We will see those that qualify for Part C, they qualify for Part B, and that's for services from 3 to 21 that would be eligible for special ed. And that's kind of where we're going to see some things more with transportation ed, where we might see a need for some special transportation as far as that goes. The other area to look at is early childhood special education, and that's from birth to age 7 you can be eligible for developmental delay, but it's usually birth up to kindergarten age that we have with that component of it. And what we're seeing is we're definitely seeing an increase with some of those numbers on those pieces of it. Just a couple other things to note on is that preschool special ed ages 3 to 5, and we also have it's more of a center-based service. So you'll see kids that come in for like half-day, sometimes programming will come into like a preschool setting for that. And this will all be listed for like special transport, will be on the IEP. It'll be something that's listed, and children have an IEP for that piece of it. I'll just move on here to talk a little bit about, there's a statewide campaign for how we find kids that might need early intervention, early childhood special ed. And you'll see this around, I think in the metro you might see this even on some of the MTC kind of buses. I think this is, you'll see the billboards on this logo, you'll see the Help Me Grow statewide campaign that's out there for their state. And it's a referral kind of system that we have in place that's statewide. So if there would be a referral, a parent, a physician, someone would have a concern, they can call into this number that's on here under the statewide Help Me Grow number. I don't think I put that one on our slide here, but that piece of it. But that's kind of just a quick overview of our statewide campaign for ECSE services that are available. One of the things you might have seen with transportation, we've seen in our area is an increase in the need for special transportation for kids that are in that 3 to 5 age range. Like you probably may have seen that in different school districts that you provide transportation for. But we've definitely seen it in our area. I think in the last about 4 or 5 years, we have about 100 more children that we're transporting in ECSE. And there's a lot of reasons people ask why is that happening. One is that statewide campaign effort we've had around the state, because our goal is just to find kids earlier, to get them help earlier, in the hope that they may not need some special education further down in their educational careers. But there's also been some things as criteria change as to why we've seen some increase in that. It's easier to qualify for early childhood special ed services in the state. And we've seen some things with having just some central intake, like one central number, one central place to do referrals. And we've also had more focused attention with our doctors for areas of concern that children might be eligible for special education. If we can talk a little bit more on.
Yeah, kind of getting back to special transportation, it is a service that needs to be listed in the IEP, and it needs to document why that child needs the service. And it could be anything from needing some kind of assistive device or wheelchair to, and I'm sure some of you have experienced working with kids even behaviorally, just need that smaller setting on a vehicle. And there has to be, and at least in the Brainerd district, we have to fill out the special transportation paperwork. There's a request that needs to be done and turned into the transportation department before that service can begin. And then it is important that the same rules are in effect on special transportation as in the classroom. Special transportation is considered an extension of the school day. And so some of the issues that Kayla asked us to talk a little bit about is, what does it mean if we suspend a student off a bus, and what's the impact for what we call due process. So in special ed, all the paperwork and the requirements that we develop are due process. Not sure what the beeping is. Are the due process pieces that we have to take care of. So if you look at the next slide, bus suspensions. If bus transportation is a part of the student's IEP, so in other words, they have special transportation listed in their IEP, a bus suspension would be treated as a removal or a suspension from school unless the school district provides transportation in some other way. So in this case, the bus transportation is necessary for the student to access the location of where their other special services are being delivered. So again, if special transportation is listed in the IEP, and if a child is removed from the bus, the impact is if the district doesn't transport them another way, and the parents cannot get the child to school, and the child ends up missing school, it is considered a suspension from school as well. So the impact that can have in the world of special education, students can only be suspended 10 days that are on IEPs from school without a whole host of other due process requirements kicking in. And so that's why when you probably have heard about maybe the 10-day, that's why it's one of these things that we have to watch very carefully. Case managers have to make sure they always are aware of whenever a child is off a bus, and it could potentially be an actual suspension day if they can't get to school. because that can have impacts for them down the road as far as due process and making sure all our paperwork and meetings that we are required to have by the state are done. If bus transportation is not part of the student's IEP, so they're on a regular bus and they get removed from the bus, then it's not considered a removal. So if they're treated just like any other child. So if the parent can't get them to school, it's not considered a suspension because the special transportation isn't a service or a requirement to help them get to school. The one caution in the world of special ed we always have to make, though, is that when we have kiddos who ride the regular transportation, they don't have special transportation in their IP, but we're starting to see a pattern of behavior where they're being suspended. They get suspended for one day, and then a couple weeks later they're getting suspended for another day, or down the road it's a couple days they get suspended. Those are always things that we have to, case managers need to know, because then we really need to consider, should they be on special transportation, and are there other things that we should be doing so that they're not being suspended. So there's always those cautionary things. That's why communication is so key in when we're bus behavior and kids on the bus. The due process implications, like I talked about, students with disabilities can be suspended from school for 10 cumulative school days or less in a school year. If we suspend more than 10 cumulative days, and again, it's not 10 in a row, it's 10 cumulative over the school year, we need to convene an IEP meeting, review or complete a functional behavior assessment, review or complete behavior intervention plans, and complete a manifestation determination. So these are things that have the impact of and why those bus suspensions really the case managers need to know, and the impact that it could have for them down the line. So that's kind of does that make sense? Anybody have questions about that? I know that's often one of the big concerns.
Anybody?
List those things again that you're talking about, the steps that have to be done when we're approaching the 10 days of suspension.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So
the question is, could you list what you do again if a student is near the 10 days of suspension? What's the process for that?
Yeah, well, process, if we're getting close to a student that, they haven't hit their 10 yet, but they're getting close, your case managers really should be convening a meeting anyway and looking at what's going on and what can we be doing, what kind of interventions can we be putting in place obviously to help the issue or the behavior with whatever's going on the bus. Once we hit we go over 10 days, so once we hit that 11th day of cumulative suspension, at that point we're required to convene an IEP meeting, and we have to look at data and review the behavior, what's been going on. We have to complete what's known as a functional behavior assessment. If one hasn't been done, if one has been done, we need to update it and review it, which is really looking at what is the behavior, and what's our belief about why the child's engaging in that behavior, and what can we do about it. Then that's looking at the behavior intervention plan. What can we put in place to try and help decrease the behavior, and then what skills is the child missing that we need to be teaching them so that the behavior decreases on the bus. The other thing that we have to complete is what's called a manifestation determination meeting. The state says when a child's missed 11 cumulative days, it actually could be considered that we're changing the student's placement, which means we've removed them from school so many times and they're missing so many days that we're actually almost looking at, have we changed their placement of school? And the other piece comes in, there are sometimes behaviors that are so significant that sometimes schools want to look at longer suspensions, want to look at even expulsion or excluding kids. But for kids on an IEP, you have to go through a manifestation determination meeting first. And if the behavior is determined to be a manifestation of that child's behavior, essentially then we can't we can't move towards expulsion or exclusion. We need to look at, though, what are some other things we could be doing. Do they need an alternative placement, like a more restrictive placement? We call them level 4 programs, where kids attend due to their behavior. So there's just a lot of different pieces. It's, there's no one set thing that you do for every kid. It's going to always vary based on that child and what's going on. Now, at the manifestation determination meeting, if it's determined the behavior is not a manifestation of their disability, then exclusion, expulsion, all of those kinds of disciplinary actions could be taken against the child. Does that help explain a little bit more?
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. I know here in Brainerd, when we do training with our drivers and our case managers, one of the things, the next slide we talk about, your best defense is a good offense. And with we talk a lot about helping, build rapport. One of the best ways to really, especially with kids with significant behaviors, really try to get to know them. Using complimenting kids, saying something good about them, say that I noticed that. Please and thank you, simple things that sometimes help some of these kids just get a little more, build that rapport with them. Oftentimes that helps immensely. If a kid feels connected to the driver or to their case manager, it really helps in behaviors. Look for ways to positively reinforce students. The state actually requires that we look at doing positive interventions and not everything being consequence-based. So putting systems in place, we have bus tickets and kinds of things for reinforcing kids for having good rides or being appropriate on the bus versus always having some kind of a consequence if they don't. So we're always looking for ways, how do we increase the positive things that they're doing and not just the negative. We always talk about it too. Part of my job, actually this is my first year as Assistant Director of Special Ed. For the past 19 years I've worked in a level 4 program for students with emotionally and behaviorally disordered, and I am also the administrator of that program. So I've spent a lot of my life working with significantly emotionally disturbed kids, and I always, when training staff to talk about viewing your relationship with a kid kind of like a bank account, and that we always need to be putting more positives in than the withdrawals. So, and because once we withdraw more than we've deposited, that's when things really get tough. So always looking for ways to build that relationship and putting more positives and telling a kid how well they're doing and when they are doing the right thing versus always having to talk about the negative things. And then being proactive rather than reactive. We always want to, when I talked earlier about that pattern of behavior, when we start seeing a child's really having a struggle on a bus, we really need to communicate as a team, and it's important our drivers know that they're not alone. And so I'm kind of jumping into that next slide, is that they're not alone and that they really do need to contact. Here in Brainerd, they can contact Kayla or Fran in our transportation department, myself, or the case manager of the student, and let them know what's going on. And because that's our job to support and sit down and try and figure out what we can do to help. Then the case manager oftentimes too knows a lot more about that particular student, and they can provide some insight, and then they can also help do some interventions and do some of those things like a bus card, rewards, and set up some of those things that would help the student with their behavior. Sometimes too, I know especially in early childhood world, oftentimes we're looking for activities and things that we can do with those younger kids on the bus, so that they're kind of busy and not have so much time to get into trouble. And just know that case managers really are there to help be problem solvers and facilitate that and support. And communication is really key in that we need to communicate back and forth so that we know what's going on the bus, and then know that the drivers need to know that we're there to support them too. That was it.
That's our.
Are there questions, or? I know I talked kind of fast. I didn't know how long you guys really had slated for this, and I know it took probably a good chunk of the time for us to get up and running.
No, that was great. Do we have questions? Okay. Can you hear them?
Yep, I think so.
Speak up.
My question is, are there any state or federal guidelines, regulations, or whatever that pertain to student-to-driver ratio? I'm talking about ECSE, transportation, smaller children in car seats. I have a few routes that have 7 to 11 students on the bus with only a driver and not a parent. And that concerns me for the safety, especially recently with the fires and whatnot. How does one driver get all these kids safely off the bus and keep them in one place?
Sure. I think that we have some routes where there's not like a bus aid on them, so it's just a driver. I think it's up to about 8 kids that can be there. But on the other side of it, on the other end, we always have support staff for like if we're, I think, are you talking that we're loading or unloading? Kind of a scenario on that end, but we always have like education assistants, our teachers are right there, hand-to-hand transfer. We got everybody's kind of on deck when kids come in and when they board. Pretty much everyone's helping in our, and for staff-wise, helping to get everyone loaded on buses. I don't know if that's a question.
But I think I know your question was, are there any state guidelines? And as far as I'm aware of, I don't think are there guidelines as far as how many can be on the bus.
I don't think so.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I think, I know some of our buses too here in Brainerd, some get a more full than others. And then we oftentimes meet and then look at what are the routes that we can change, or do we need to get support staff on that vehicle for them?
Well, the issue could be money because we're a contractor. We're not actually the school bus, school district, whatever. And I try to contract transportation and the school itself to try to find out, can we get a fare on the bus and their big thing as well. We got to look at the money issue, and I asked them directly, what's more important, the cost or the lives of 11 children?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think, and especially if there's issues going on the bus, I think you really need to be sharing that with them, because it is hard for a driver to be able to focus on what the most important job is driving, and not, if you've got kids that are misbehaving or whatever the issues or concerns. I think you really need to just keep sharing that and letting them know the concern that you have for the safety of the kids, because I agree with you that it's not going to look good if something ends up happening.
Yeah. And I don't want to wait until then.
Right.
I don't want to wait until something happens. I want to be proactive.
Right. Yep.
My name is Ruth Roberts. I'm for student. I think you might have missed the specifics she was talking about, the fact that these students are all restrained in star seats, and it's just a driver, and there's medical issues or issues that of an emergency nature, shouldn't that require at a minimum one person on the bus to assist the driver? Does the state have any requirements in that regard?
Not that I'm aware of. No, not that I'm aware of. I don't. We can, and that might be a good question. I'll chat with you about that too. That would be something.
There are specific requirements.
Questions?
Oh, go ahead.
Any other questions? Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you have anything else to add, or?
The only thing I was thinking is that there might be some specific things, like if it's written in on a child's IEP in the plan for special transport that there's a bus assistant available, and the reason why that is, then that would need to happen. And we have kids that are on special transportation but it's written that they are transported, but not specific to like a bus aid. But there are situations where it is written into the actual plan where a bus aid is something that's needed, especially with kids that might have like seizures. That is something that we've had, that's written in on the plan specifically. So if that helps it at all, and as kids, and that's why Kayla comes into our IEP meetings. And when we even think of a possibility that might need a bus aid, we have transportation at the table in the front part of our meetings. So if that's something, I don't know if it would be helpful, but that's a practice that we have here with it at Brainerd.
Yeah, so things that are written into, like Julie said, that are written into an IEP, like if a team determines that they need a bus aid on, and somebody with them, an adult, or we call one-on-one staff member to be with them on the bus due to safety concerns, whether sometimes it has been behaviorally, other times it is because of medical issues, then it has to be provided. That IEP is a legal binding document that needs to be followed. So that would be then in that situation the districts would need to provide those services.
My question would be to all districts. Does any district have a policy that when you have a child that's in a restraint, that it's, they're unable to get themselves out of a vehicle in an emergency, say the driver becomes incapacitated? Do any school policy or any school districts that have a policy that there's a student in restraint, that they knock it out themselves, that there needs to be involved?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure if other districts have a policy. That would be something that I would like to, another question I'd like to talk to Kayla about.
We write up like emergency, the safety plans of a person that help with students within, if they need to evacuate buildings, how those things happen. And I think that might be an extension of kind of one of those safety plans that we do within our district. That's kind of one way how we work with some of those unique needs of kids that might not be able to, like you say, evacuate a bus in a safe manner when it's just a driver that we should have that. So that might be an area you would write in on an actual plan. We could actually write it up in a couple different areas, one being on the IEP, one being like our safety emergency evacuation plans. We actually would write. I don't know what if that's an actual requirement. It's just probably a process that we do here. Hopefully that helps answer that question.
Yeah, but as far as I don't know if other districts have a policy about that, that's something I've got in my notes here to just talk to Kayla about too.
Our early childhood program has a policy of supplying bus aids in all the early childhood special ed bus runs. They do that for students, so they also do that for parents, because many times this is the first experience where the parent has let go of the child and entrusted them to the school district, and it's their child with a disability. The school district has decided that early childhood buses will have a bus aid. It gets to be difficult when I have one or two students that live a long distance from the school and are transported separately. I may or may not be able to find a bus aid driver. So I prioritize which buses I put the aids on to serve the greatest number possible.
Okay, I get part of that.
I didn't hear it all.
I didn't hear all of it. And that might be the microphone piece of it, that piece of it. And I know I think the question was something in regard to how you carefully look at what buses have a bus aid on. Is that the question that we're looking towards? And I got part of that. What you asked there.
Question. It's really a policy statement for Minneapolis schools.
Okay.
That we put aids on our early childhood special ed buses.
Okay. So that's a district policy that actually Minneapolis schools have. Okay. Got it. Okay. very good. I mean, that's good learning. I think that's one of the things we do with us being able to just share information and you all being able to share information, being able to take that back. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. It's really good information for us, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. So, anything else? Was that valuable to you? I think there's some good information in there. So, I guess a couple just reminders, and I know with working with all special ed kids at 287 is that's the thing, and I, we all try to talk to the case managers too, is when they're writing transportation things in the IEP, you want to have the least restrictive as possible, and be careful about writing too much in there, but you want to make sure you write things in that the student needs. And once that is written in, like they said, I know you're all trying to keep budgets down, but you must, go follow that, because that's the need for the child to help them to be successful, to get to school. So, yes, Ray?
It would seem to me that to capture the essence of this dialogue, that you have an opportunity within the committee to formulate, call it a white paper, a position paper from the Minnesota Special Ed Committee that lays out the facts that, you can go to Mr. Lewis's experience on May 6th. He only had 2 ambulatory and 2 wheelchair, and he had a nurse. But to create in a concise way that can be easily given to and understood by school board members, because that's where the decision has to be placed. They're the people in the school districts that are elected by the parents, the citizens of the community of the district. And it has to start at the top. And working together, the leadership from within the transportation department, the contractors working in support of that, and the decision's got to be made.
No, I agree with you. I guess when things don't all get taken care of or people aren't aware of things, it's because of lack of communication. So make sure, you communicate with your drivers and aides that they let you know when there's a small issue before it gets to be a huge issue, so everybody knows and they can do the best they can to help have that child be successful on the school bus. So, absolutely. Yes, Kevin.
Would you be able to email us a copy of the PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, so I think everyone, you get the emails every month that Kayla sends. I'll just copy and paste that, and I'll send, so everybody wants to, okay. And, just look those through and change them, of course, to what your procedures are. How I made those up is I talked to our contractors and found out what they felt comfortable with, what they wanted their drivers to do, and then, what our paras, because at 287 we have our own paras that are on the bus, for midday. So again, you follow that. Yes, Carol?
So that's 2 different documents you're talking about. I really do want a copy of your procedures. It takes a lot of energy to sit down and be clear about those steps, and I thank you for writing those.
Oh, you're welcome.
I want a copy of those, but I'd also like a copy of the PowerPoint presentation from the people from Brainerd that they went through today.
Okay, sure.
I really like their piece about what to do ahead of time, about being proactive and build rapport. And I think that's a piece I can use in a training for my drivers.
Yes, it was very good.
Yeah.
Actually,
oh, it's attached.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the mailing, when she sent out the notice for the meeting, it was attached.
Okay, I'll grab it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, oh, yes, Jeff.
Within the IEP, did I understand that there's a separate part that can be part of it that's called a safety action plan?
Okay, I'm sure there is, but I'm not exactly familiar with that. Does anyone else?
You need to refer to that.
Right.
So not every IEP would have a safety.
Right, exactly,
But
yeah.
there could be one.
Right.
We could, if there was one, say in one of these rides, out of those 11 kids, there was a child that had an IEP. I could check that to see if that required a safety action plan that may or may not be pushed to require an aid.
Correct. And that's the thing is, sometimes people get so fast to get transportation set up that some of those things could be missed. So yes, that's very good, to check that and to do that. Yes, Karen.
So in Minneapolis, what we're getting now, after requesting, is emergency health care plans. And then we're asking them to specify what we need to know on the bus. And we'll give them, mostly for students who have seizures, and there's a written process for how to deal with a seizure on the bus that parallels how to deal with the seizure in the schoolroom. So we worked with the health services to get emergency health care plans for students that have them throughout the district, not only the special ed kids with seizures or other severe situations, but for kids with bee stings on our regular ed buses. So emergency health care plans is something the bus drivers need to have on students that have those. The nurses may or may not know that you need them.
Do you have a Minneapolis form that we could complete?
Yeah, probably.
Send it to her.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that would be good because a lot of special ed students do have seizure disorders. And in non-special ed as well. Yeah.
Form and edit.
And something you might think too, I know that some school districts now, because sometimes we have issues at 287 where they have like an kids that are in an EBD program and then kids that are in an autistic program, and they want to try to consolidate their buses, of course, and so they put them all on the same bus. And I don't know if you've had that experience, and sometimes that can be a disaster. So that's another thing to have communication with the school and the case manager about, are these kids going to get along? And I know it'd be more expensive to have another bus, but one of those things is, okay, can we do it? How can we do it safely? And in that situation, maybe it would work if you had a bus aid. And I know some school districts have changed their procedures where they will have a bus aid if there's over a certain amount of special ed students or they're from different programs. And things like that really help too. Anything else? All right, well, thank you. And Mike and Sue, thank you for hosting. And we will see you next month. And remember, train the trainer if you need any more of these. There's a couple more up here. Have a good day.
No.